Chapter 100. Holding a glass of champagne, Fu Lingbing walked to Yu Lily and said with a smile that he thought was charming, "You Lily, right?" Yu Lily saw Fu Lingbing's flirtatious face, raised her eyebrows and looked at Lu Anan provocatively. Next to Lu Anan, a male classmate handed her a piece of cake. Lu Anan accidentally turned her head and bumped into the cake. She immediately became angry. "What are you doing? Are you blind?" The smile on the man's face froze and he quickly took out a handkerchief to wipe the cake for her. "Hey, why are you acting like a shrew?" Yu Lily took the glass from Fu Lingbing's hand and said sarcastically. Fu Lingbing saw that and shook his head. "She has always been like this. I heard that you used to have a relationship with her. Is it really okay to say that? That was in the past. Now there is a prettier girl in front of me. Which one do you think I should choose?" Fu Lingbing had a captivating smile on his face. One had to admit that his pretty face was quite attractive. Seeing Fu Lingbing's handsome smile, Lu Anan was even more furious and clenched her fists. "Damn you, Yu Lily. She's a real vixen. Lu Anan dared to steal her man? She must be tired of living." Squeezing the crystal goblet in her hand, Lu Anan caught a glimpse of a slim but tall figure. The man was wearing a navy blue suit, neat and elegant. It turned out to be a handmade Italian suit. Lu Anan was stunned. Further up, there was a clean and handsome face, wearing a pair of rimless glasses. He was talking to a male classmate with a few female classmates around him, looking at him with admiration. "This is Louis Han? Since when did he have such a good life?" Lu Anan looked at Yu Lily and suddenly remembered the bad relationship between them when they were in high school. "Since you stole my man, I will steal your man too." With the sweetest and most charming smile on her face, Lu Anan walked toward Louis Han, twisting her waist, slim and seductive. Many men stared at her, and Louis Han's attention was also attracted by her. "Han, long time no see." Seeing her, Louis Han kept his smile on his face. "Really? I see you on Weibo every day. Now that you are an internet celebrity, why don't you give me an autograph?" Hearing that, Lu Anan's face changed and she could no longer keep her smile. It was no secret that she was being scammed on Weibo. Almost all of her classmates knew about it. Many men even took the initiative to strike up a conversation with her just to ask her out. But he was the first one to say it out loud like this. Louis Han saw that her face was not right, blinked and said with concern, "Are you not feeling well? Why do you look so pale?" "That's right. If you don't feel well, you should go to the hospital as soon as possible," a female classmate said. Could it be that he didn't get a clean abortion and left a sequela? "Ha ha," the mocking voice spread out and everyone looked at her with different expressions. Lu Anan could not stand it anymore. Trembling with anger, she was about to lose her temper. Suddenly there were exclamations around her. The mocking voice stopped abruptly. Louis Han's smiling eyes looked at the door of the banquet hall. Yu Lily, who had been paying attention to him, clearly saw the shock in his eyes. This nerd, she had never seen him so interested in anything. Yu Lily followed his gaze, and her heart was suddenly choked by something. Chapter 101. At the place where everyone's eyes were focused, a noble figure in navy blue came into Yu Lily's sight. A wisp of light muslin straps hung diagonally over her dark blue bodice. From top to bottom, the color gradually faded, and by the end of the skirt, it had already turned into a moon-white color. The skirt was layered with light muslin, and the waist was adorned with a playful wrinkled design, outlining the slender waistline. The perfect curve, when it reached the calves, it blossomed into a luxurious fishtail skirt. There was a golden chain around the waist. The pure gemstone was shining under the light of the crystal lamp. Elegant. Around his neck was a rare sapphire pigeon egg. It was inlaid with a group of diamonds, giving off an air of nobility. On her wrist was the latest colorful bracelet of a luxury brand, which was expensive and youthful. Stunning. Her face was white and clean, with only light makeup as embellishments. Her eyebrows and eyes were like a painting, and her long, straight hair was tied up with a navy blue hairpin. It was simple yet elegant, noble and full of youthful vigor. Even though she was a woman, she could not help but be dazzled. She was really beautiful. Perhaps her facial features were not the most delicate, but her unique elegance was especially eye-catching. After a few seconds, there was a sudden exclamation. "Who is this? She looks so familiar. Is she our classmate? No way. Is there a girl like her among our classmates? Damn, what brand is she wearing?" I could not tell. Of course no one could tell. She was wearing the latest evening dress designed by an international designer in Milan and the most Tiffany-style jewelry. Everything Su Chinsi was wearing right now was what Lu Anan had been dreaming of. Why did AB*TCH like Su Qianxi have all this treatment and clothes? This world was really too unfair. There was jealousy in Lu Ainan's eyes. Suddenly, she caught a glimpse of the man not far away and suddenly moved. It was Lu Yihan. Why are you so late? I thought you were not coming. Lu Yihan's voice was a bit teasing and reproachful as he strode toward Su Qianxi. Lu Ainan was dazed. The man who had just ignored his female classmates was walking toward Su Qianxi? Not only Lu Ainan, the other girls who had failed to hit on Lu Yihan were also shocked. They were surprised that Lu Yihan would approach Lu Yihan. Yu Lily, who was standing far away, clenched her fists and poured the wine down her throat. Lu Yihan looked at Su Qianxi from a distance, not hiding the amazement in his eyes and face. He stopped about 2 or 3 steps away from her, as if he did not dare to approach. Wow, she's too beautiful. I didn't expect to be blinded by her beauty. Is she even a woman? She's a goddess. Su Qianxi was amused. However, such a smile made the boys around her itch even more. It was as if it had come from the hands of a top illustrator. It was so beautiful and elegant that it was unbelievable. Is that Su Qianxi? Someone suddenly asked. Hearing this, the person who had been thinking hard suddenly realized and couldn't help but curse. Oh my God, this is Su Qianxi? This is too big of a change. Chapter 102. Her words attracted a lot of attention. Hearing that, Su Qianxi quietly curled her lips and said as she walked forward, "Your face really needs a good hospital to remodel it." Yu Lily suddenly spat out the wine she had just drunk and burst into laughter. Yu Lily's laughter made the people around her laugh as well. Lu Ainan's expression changed. No matter how stupid she was, she knew that Su Qianxi was calling her ugly. Gritting her teeth, she roared, "Su Qianxi." Yes. Su Qianxi's eyes fell on her. What's the matter? Lu Ainan was roaring. However, seeing how calm Su Qianxi was, she felt like she had punched into cotton. She had nowhere to vent her anger. Everyone was staring at her, and Lu Ainan suddenly felt she could not back down. When she was thinking about how to yell at Su Qianxi turned her head as if she had seen something strange. Looking at Lu Yihan, she asked, "Is it a costume party today?" Lu Yihan was puzzled. Oh, I thought they were pretending to be Snow White and the Poison Queen. It turns out that I misunderstood. Hearing that, everyone looked at Lu Ainan and Lin Wanting. One in black and one in blue. Weren't they Snow White and the Poison Queen? Especially the Poison Queen, she could not have looked any better. Lin Wanting almost went crazy. She felt the eyes of the people around her, as if everyone was looking at her with a strong sense of irony. Everyone seemed to be saying that she was ugly, ugly, and ugly. The more she thought about it, the more aggrieved she felt. Tears fell from Lin Wanting's eyes. "Su Qianxi, why are you doing this to me? I did not do anything." Su Qianxi heard that and looked confused. "What did I do to you?" Lin Wanting stopped crying for a moment and immediately roared in grief. "I treat you as a good friend, but you colluded with Yu Lily to trick me into buying such expensive clothes and cutting my hair. Don't you think it's too much?" When Yu Lily heard that, she wasn't happy. Hey, do you have any shame? You borrowed money from Chanshan to buy these clothes and shoes. If I didn't vouch for you, do you think a poor B*TCH like you would be able to borrow so much money? Ah. A girl said with a look of surprise, "I thought she was rich. This must cost at least a few $100,000, and it's the same model as my mother's. I didn't dare to say it just now, but I didn't expect that she had borrowed money to buy it." Bah! It can't be, right? The same style as your mother? How can it be fake? But to be able to borrow so much money to buy a piece of clothing, he is really bold. Lin Wanting's face suddenly turned pale. She never thought that Yu Lily would expose her in front of so many people. "That's right. The IOU is still here. Don't forget to pay me back." Yu Lily took out an IOU from her purse, shook it, and then gave it to Su Qianxi. "Here, you forgot to take it last time." Seeing the IOU she had written, Lin Wanting became even paler and cried even harder. "Yu Lily, Su Qianxi, what did I do to offend you? Why are you humiliating me like this?" Chapter 103. It's not your fault for being brainless, but it's your fault for showing off. Yu Lily smiled brightly. "Classmate Lin, you haven't topped up your IQ, have you?" As soon as he finished speaking, the surrounding crowd burst into laughter. Lin Wanting cried even harder and tears fell down her cheeks. "You guys are too much," Lu Ainan finally said, but she was not that angry. Fortunately, Su Qianxi was talking about Snow White, who was at least a positive character, right? All right. Let's not talk too much. On the stage, Fu Lingbing held the microphone and stood straight. "Thank you all for coming to the party I organized. Su Qianxi and Louis Han found a place to sit down, and Yu Lili quickly joined them. The three of them sat on the side, grabbed some drinks and chatted happily. Lu Anan glanced at Su Qianxi and Yu Lili with jealousy and pulled Lin Wanting to a secret corner. Do you remember our plan? Things are starting to change. I will go talk to them later, and you take the chance to put the medicine in Su Qianxi and Louis Han's cup. Yu Lili likes Louis Han and is Su Qianxi's best friend. Then let her best friend sleep with the man she likes. Lu Anan's eyes sparkled. Of course she did not come up with this plan alone. Someone else was behind it. However, this was indeed the best idea she had ever heard. For one thing, we can get revenge on Yu Lili, and for another, we can ruin Su Qianxi's position in the Li family. After whispering to Su Qianxi, Lin Wanting's face became gloomy. She looked up and asked, "Is that not a good idea?" Lu Anan thought that Su Qianxi was being soft-hearted, stomped her foot and cursed, "They did this to you, made you a laughingstock and made you owe a lot of money. Don't you want revenge?" Lin Wanting heard that and sneered, "I mean, isn't it too light?" Lu Anan was dazed, not expecting that she would say that. "What do you think? Do you see that guy?" Lin Wanting pointed to a corner. Lu Anan looked over and immediately recognized that it was the ugliest and fattest guy in their class. Ding Haiba? Yes, that guy is not only fat. I heard that in the past few years he has also played with many female celebrities and young models. I heard that he even played with a few to death, but they were all suppressed by his father. I've also heard of it. Don't tell me you want to. Let Su Qianxi be with this fat pig, and let Yu Lili be with Louis Han. No way you want to help them? Don't you know that Yu Lili is a sugar daddy? Really? Her sugar daddy is O Ming. Think about it. If O Ming finds out that she slept with Louis Han, what will happen to them? Lu Anan was dazed for a second and then smiled. Then they will never be able to be human again. O Ming is very evil. Who knows what he will do to them? Then guess what will happen to Su Qianxi if she accuses a man like Li Xiqing? Haha, definitely worse than Louis Han and Yu Lili. More importantly, Li Xiqing was in the hotel now. If he could come and catch them in person, that would be fun. Chapter 104. Ding Haiba was gorging himself in the corner, his eyes squinting as he looked around. At such a high school reunion, the girls would not only compare their wealth but also their bodies. At a glance, Ding Haiba's deep white cleavage was swaying back and forth. He was drooling as he ate. However, the more he looked at it, the more he felt that it was boring. He looked to the corner where a group of boys and girls were chatting happily. Among them, the figure in navy blue was the most elegant. That was Su Qianxi. The campus belle in high school. Even at this reunion, she was the most outstanding one. When Ding Haiba was lost in his thoughts, he suddenly smelled some cheap perfume, and a black figure stood in front of him. Seeing that Yu Lili and Su Qianxi were together, the students who were close to them in the past also gathered around. 7 or 8 people stood together and chatted enthusiastically. Su Qianxi had drunk a bit too much water. When she got up to go to the bathroom, she saw Lu Anan talking to a waiter and did not pay much attention. However, when she came out of the bathroom, she bumped into someone she knew. Lin Wanting was touching up her makeup in the mirror. Seeing Su Qianxi coming out, she immediately put away her makeup and looked at Su Qianxi aggressively. Su Qianxi turned a blind eye to it. After washing her hands, she was ready to leave. However, when she walked out the door, she suddenly felt something behind her. Although she was not happy at the martial arts club, she had not learned judo for nothing. Su Qianxi frowned and saw a hand reaching toward her. Su Qianxi dodged the hand and grabbed the wrist firmly. Pulling the woman forward, she pushed her forward. Lin Wanting did not expect Su Qianxi to react so quickly. She was caught off guard and let out a scream. Ding Haiba, who was at the door, heard this exclamation and was overjoyed. He pushed open the door according to what they had discussed earlier and opened his arms to embrace. Holding a warm body in his arms, Ding Haiba did not see who it was, but he felt very satisfied. The first thing he did was to touch the chest of the girl in his arms and rub it hard. It was very elastic and he felt very good. When he was about to go further, he suddenly saw Su Qianxi standing at the door of the women's restroom looking shocked. This person is still standing. Then who is this person? Ding Haiba looked down and saw Lin Wanting's weird posture and expression. Ah! Lin Wanting screamed and pushed Ding Haiba away. You! When Ding Haiba saw that it was her, he felt a little disgusted. What you? Don't you have eyes? Just fall down. As he said that, he smacked his lips and looked at his palm, reminiscing about the soft touch. Lin Wanting was ashamed and resentful. She turned around and yelled, Su Qianxi. Su Qianxi had some sympathy in her eyes. Glancing at Ding Haiba with a faint smile, she said, Good luck with women. Ding Haiba was even more stunned by her expression. His heart felt like it was being scratched by a kitten. It was terribly itchy. Staring at Su Chenxi's back, he rubbed his hands. Lin Wanting gritted her teeth. When she was about to chase after Su Chenxi, she saw Su Chenxi take a cocktail from a waiter. That was the one who had just talked to Lu Anan. Seeing this, Lin Wanting calmed down and sneered inwardly. Chapter 105. When Su Chenxi was about to go back to her seat with her glass, she saw Lu Anan walking toward her. Lu Anan glanced at the glass in Su Chenxi's hand, raised her glass and said to Su Chenxi, "I was too extreme a while ago. I'm sorry. Su Chenxi, let's forget about the past and make up, shall we?" Then she raised her glass to Su Chenxi. Glancing at Lu Anan, Su Chenxi did not want to clink glasses with her at all. Holding the crystal glass with her long fingers, Su Chenxi half smiled. Make up? Since a long time ago, Lu Anan had been treating Su Chenxi like a fool. In her previous lifetime, Su Chenxi might have been fooled by Lu Anan's *T, but now, do we have a good time? Lu Anan did not expect Su Chenxi to say that. Holding the glass tightly, she forced a smile and said, "Of course. We are good friends, aren't we?" "Oh really?" Su Chenxi curled her lips. "I forgot." Then she was about to walk around Lu Anan. Looking at the glass of wine in Su Chenxi's hand, Lu Anan was anxious. She had seen Su Chenxi take the glass with her own eyes, but Su Chenxi did not take a sip. Had Su Chenxi seen through her? Lu Anan felt a bit uneasy, feeling that Su Chenxi was more and more mysterious. She would only have such a strong feeling when she was with Li Xiqing. Was Su Chenxi influenced by her company? No matter what, she had to make Su Chenxi drink the wine today. Lu Anan. Lin Wanting stopped her. Lu Anan turned around and Lin Wanting had already walked over. In a low voice that only they could hear, Lin Wanting said, "I have already fed Ding Haiba the drug and tricked him into getting a room. We only need to take Su Chenxi there. With the drug, she will not be able to escape. Next, it is up to you." Lu Anan smiled with satisfaction and looked at Lin Wanting with admiration. "I did not expect you to have some tricks up your sleeve. The next part is going to be interesting." Although it was important to take care of Ding Haiba, it was not enough to ruin Su Chenxi. But if they could be caught in bed while they were doing it, then it would be a different story. Seeing them whispering to each other, Su Chenxi knew they must be up to no good. But what exactly did they want to do? Things had deviated from the track of her previous lifetime. She had no idea what would happen next. Secretly on guard, Su Chenxi took a sip of the champagne glass in her hand and thought about something. The moment Lu Anan turned around, she saw her drink the wine. Although it was only a sip, it was enough to make Lu Anan jump for joy. He drank it all. Su Chenxi had been paying attention to them. After seeing Lu Anan's expression, she had a bad feeling. Sensing Su Chenxi's strange gaze, Lu Anan was a bit surprised. Did Su Chenxi sense something? Feeling a bit guilty, Lu Anan walked over and said, "Su Chenxi, although you do not want to admit it, I really see you as a good friend. Here's to you as an apology." After that, he drank the wine in his hand. Seeing that Su Chenxi did not move, he urged, "Chenxi, for my sake, we used to be friends. Let's have a toast, shall we?" Su Chenxi asked. Chapter 106. As soon as Li Xiqing finished his business, he received a message on his cell phone. It was an MMS. It was an unfamiliar number, but the picture of the MMS looked somewhat familiar. Li Xiqing swiped on the screen, clicked on it, and downloaded it. He immediately saw a familiar figure. Wearing a navy dress, Su Chenxi looked elegant and charming. She was blushing. Standing in front of her was a handsome young man wearing a pair of rimless glasses. They looked at each other and smiled, seeming to be talking about something. Their background was a hallway. Judging from the decoration and style, it should be the royal hotel where he was now. Then another message came in. This time it was a room number plate. F1805. It would not be a problem to see either of the two messages alone. However, they came in together and saw them together, which was very meaningful. Li Xiqing's pupils contracted and his heart sank. An uncontrollable anger suddenly rose up in him. Tang Menjing had known Li Xiqing for more than a decade and could immediately tell that he was not in a good mood. Hansen was overjoyed. He knew that Lu Anan's plan must have started. Glancing at his cell phone, Tang Menjing quietly put away the documents and said casually, "I heard that Su Chenxi's classmates are having a reunion today, and it is also being held in this hotel. It should not be over yet. Shall we go and have a look?" "How do you know?" Li Xiqing's voice was so cold that it almost froze. Looking at Tang Menjing, his eyes almost peeled off a layer of her skin. Her heart racing, Tang Minjing explained, "My cousin. She is her classmate, right?" Therefore it was not strange that she knew Su Qianxi was here. Li Xiqing seemed to accept this explanation. He stood up and walked toward the door as fast as the wind. Tang Minjing let out a sigh of relief and picked up her cell phone. She saw the message from Lu Anan 20 minutes ago. "Everything is ready. Please be ready." Curling her lips, Tang Minjing deleted the message and trotted to Li Xiqing with the documents. Seeing Su Qianxi finish the wine, Lu Anan smiled gratefully. "Su Qianxi, I know we are good friends. You will miss me too, right?" Su Qianxi looked at the smile on her face and felt even more strange. She took a step back and said, "I'm just thirsty. Don't think too much." After saying that, he turned around and prepared to walk back into the crowd. Being ignored like that, Lu Anan was not annoyed at all. Instead, she smiled proudly. "Soon you will be finished." Clearly feeling the eyes of Lu Anan and Lin Wanting, Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat. What were they expecting? Under their gaze, Su Qianxi suddenly changed her path and deliberately walked to the door of the banquet hall. The door of the banquet hall was of a heavy European design. Its surface was smooth and clearly reflected everything behind it. Su Qianxi immediately saw Lin Wanting following her and sneered inwardly. Pretending to be drunk, she stumbled and grabbed the chair next to her. Lin Wanting saw Su Qianxi from a distance and was overjoyed. She came up and held Su Qianxi looking concerned. "Su Qianxi, are you okay? Don't tell me he's drunk?" Su Qianxi pretended to wave her hand, but Lin Wanting dragged her up. "Let me take you to rest. You will be fine after lying down." Something was wrong. Su Qianxi hesitated and let Lin Wanting drag her up to the 18th floor. The number was F1805. Lin Wanting heard a faint sound coming from inside. She casually took out a key card from her bag and placed it on the doorknob. Beep. Chapter 107. As soon as the door was opened, the sound inside suddenly stopped as if it had never been there. Lin Wanting's expression did not change and she said with concern, "Have a good rest." Then she pulled Su Qianxi into the room. Su Qianxi's eyes turned cold and her heart sank. Suddenly she heard breathing inside. The sound was very light, but it made Su Qianxi feel more threatened. No, there was definitely something wrong inside. Using her back to resist Lin Wanting's strength, Su Qianxi stepped back and broke Lin Wanting's hand. Lin Wanting yelped in pain and was dragged into the room by Su Qianxi. Ah! Ouch! It was dark in the room, but Su Qianxi could hear the heavy breathing. With the light in the hallway, Su Qianxi clearly saw Ding Haiba's fat face. His muscles were shaking in pain, and his eyes were terrifyingly red. Her heart skipping a beat, Su Qianxi took a step back. Lin Wanting, who was in the room, had no time to escape. Her expression changed dramatically and she screamed, "No, go away!" However, she was dragged into the room by Ding Haiba. No. Struggling, Lin Wanting looked up at Su Qianxi for help. "Help me, Su Qianxi, help me. Give it to me, give it to me." Ding Haiba gasped and his thick arms quickly tore Lin Wanting's clothes. Her expensive dress emitted a sound of being torn. Seeing this, Su Qianxi was shocked. She had never thought that she would see such a scene. As an adult, she certainly knew what his reaction meant. However, the shock in her eyes soon turned into coldness. Su Qianxi quickly stepped in, grabbed the door handle and closed the thick door. Qi Ju's scream immediately disappeared in the room. His desperate scream disappeared, but he was still in shock. Su Qianxi had never felt so lucky that she had learned judo for a while. Lin Wanting had almost ruined her life again. Oh! Help! Through the door she could still vaguely hear the screams and cries for help from inside. Every sound was like a heavy hammer, making her heart palpitate. If she had not reacted fast enough to push Lin Wanting back, she would have been the one being treated like this by Ding Haiba. Thinking of Lin Wanting's miserable scene, Su Qianxi could not help but feel disappointed and sad, but she did not have any sympathy for Lin Wanting. Sins committed by heaven can still be forgiven. The evils brought upon themselves were the hardest to bear. When Han Sen returned to the banquet hall, Lu Anan was holding a cell phone with a smile on her face. However, when she looked up and saw Su Qianxi's elegant figure walking in, the smile on her face suddenly froze. At this moment, Su Qianxi's pace was neither fast nor slow, but every step was steady. Her face was cold and her eyes were piercing. How could it be? How could it be? She clearly saw her drink the spiked wine with her own eyes, so how could she be so clear-headed? Shocked, Lu Anan watched Su Qianxi walk over and could not help but feel nervous. Scared by Su Qianxi, Lu Anan took a step back and exclaimed, You Su Qianxi looked down and saw that the message had been successfully sent, so she snatched the phone. Su Qianxi clicked on it and saw 2 pictures. Chapter 108. Slap. The crisp sound of a slap drew the attention of many people in the surroundings. Lu Ainen was caught off guard, but she soon reacted. Screaming, she was going to slap Su Qianxi's face back. However, Su Qianxi's reaction was faster. Blocking Lu Ainen's hand with her right hand, Su Qianxi slapped the other side of Lu Ainen's face with her left hand. The commotion here quickly attracted the attention of many people, and they quickly surrounded them. Su Qianxi. Lu Ainen was going crazy. No one had ever treated her like this before. The burning sensation on both sides of her face was very clear. Lu Ainen could even feel the swelling. With tears in her eyes, she lunged at Su Qianxi crazily. Su Qianxi's eyes turned cold and she quickly dodged to the side. Lu Ainen stumbled and almost fell. When she finally steadied herself, she was pushed from behind and fell flat on her face. Although the floor was soft and did not hurt her hands, Lu Ainen felt humiliated when she fell to the ground in such an ugly way. Hey. Fu Lingbing quickly pulled Su Qianxi back and tried to calm her down. Let go of me. Being grabbed, Su Qianxi's cold eyes became even colder. Glancing at him, she growled, "Let go." Fu Lingbing was stunned by the shout. He immediately raised his hand and made a gesture of surrender. Seeing that Su Qianxi was going to hit her again, Lu Ainen was scared and screamed, "Su Qianxi, what's wrong with me? Why are you doing this to me?" Su Qianxi smiled. "What's wrong?" As she spoke, she raised the phone she had just taken from Lu Ainen's hand and said angrily, "What do you mean by sending a picture like this to my husband?" Husband? She had a husband? Most of the students did not know about it and looked over curiously. Lu Ainen was scared, but she quickly got up and cried, "What are you talking about? I don't understand at all." Su Qianxi sent the 2 pictures to her high school group. For a moment, many people's cell phones rang. When Lu Yihan saw the photo, he was stunned. Sliding his finger to the side, he saw the ambiguous room number, and his face quickly became gloomy. F***ck, they can even post this kind of picture? It can't be. They just took a picture of them talking and sent a room number. Does that mean something's wrong? You can't say that. Who wouldn't think too much about such a picture? Besides, which man can stand it? Lu Ainen quickly waved her hand and tried to explain, "This phone is not mine. Lin Wanting asked me to keep it for her. It has nothing to do with me." Really? Then look at the time it was sent 5 minutes ago. Was Lin Wanting here? Maybe she set a time to frame me. Okay, then how did Lin Wanting get my husband's number? Su Qianxi's eyes were a bit sharp, and her tone was aggressive. Several classmates who used to be close to Su Qianxi were very surprised. Since when did Su Qianxi have such an aura? But, so handsome. Under Su Qianxi's aura, Lu Ainen felt indescribable pressure and couldn't help feeling guilty. When Li Xiqing walked into the banquet hall, he saw a crowd. He vaguely heard Su Qianxi's cold voice asking, "How did you get my husband's number?" Hearing this voice, Li Xiqing's cold and sharp eyes softened a bit. Husband. Chapter 109. Lu Ainen looked away and puffed out her chest. "How do I know how she got it? Why don't you ask her instead?" Su Qianxi, don't go too far. Do you really think you are all that? You even beat Ainen like this? A short-haired girl in a simple pink gown walked up to Lu Ainen, obviously siding with her. That's right. Lin Wanting was trying to frame you and put the blame on Ainen. A girl who was close to Lu Ainen came up and felt sorry for her. Lu Ainen had been beaten up and was already jealous. Seeing that someone was siding with her, she immediately burst into tears. It was them. In her previous lifetime, Lu Ainen and Lin Wanting worked together to frame Su Qianxi. When Su Qianxi was doomed, the 2 of them also played a big part. In this lifetime, they were still on Lu Ainen's side, like angels of justice. So, the girl who grew up in the orphanage is not only uneducated but also brainless? One of them said. The other person quickly laughed, his face full of mockery. Lu Yihan was furious. He stepped forward and stood next to Su Qianxi. Looking at the 2 women coldly, he said with an obvious warning, "Don't go too far. Oh, the guardian angel is here. Why didn't you say she went too far when she was beating people up? What a good dog. You really think we don't know? You have always treated Su Qianxi differently. Unfortunately, she has a rich background and does not like poor people like you at all. Speaking of which, a whore and a dog will last forever. You 2 are a perfect match." The 2 of them echoed each other and said very harsh words. However, Lu Ainen's face had obviously softened a lot, feeling very good. "You are too much. Apologize." Lu Yihan burst into anger and lowered the pressure around him. Obviously, he was not the gentle man he had been talking about. In everyone's eyes, Lu Yihan had always been smiling and carefree. No one expected Lu Yihan to be like this when he was angry. Caught off guard, they were a bit scared. But when she thought of Lu Yihan's poor background, she became more courageous. Lu Anan sneered, "Are they wrong? Apologize." Lu Yihan was furious. "I never hit a woman. Don't force me to make an exception. Apologize to Qianqian." "Why should we apologize? Did we say anything wrong? Su Qianxi is a whore. Bitch. Bitch." Lu Yihan became even more furious. However, just as he was about to lose his temper, a clear and low voice passed through the crowd and fell into everyone's ears. "Who did the B*TC say?" Hearing this voice, Su Qianxi was shocked and looked in the direction of the voice incredulously. Li Xiqing. No one knew who spoke first, but when they heard those 3 words, many people turned their heads to look. As someone from Kingstown, you might not know who the new mayor was. However, there was no way you didn't know him. The crowd consciously parted to form a path, and everyone could clearly see a cold and aloof figure. Wearing a black suit, he looked cold and aloof. His almond-shaped eyes were filled with an indescribable coldness as they steadily landed on the female classmate who had just called her a whore. Chapter 110. Li Xiqing's tall figure walked into the crowd, like a noble god, out of place with everything around him. However, the moment he entered the hall, he attracted everyone's attention. His aura was cold. His pitch-black and deep cold eyes were like 2 icy blades that forcefully tore through the crowd and swept towards the woman that spoke rudely earlier. However, just when everyone thought that Li Xiqing would definitely do something, his cold and sharp eyes quickly moved away. He did not stay there for more than 2 seconds. It was as if it was just an accidental glance. Li Xiqing called, "Chengyu?" There was a hint of coldness in his voice. After spending 3 years together, Chengyu already knew Li Xiqing like the back of her hand. There was no need for words or orders. Chengyu already knew what Li Xiqing meant. "Yes, sir," she answered quickly, turned around and walked out of the banquet hall. Just then, everyone noticed that there were 2 women behind Li Xiqing. "Cousin." Seeing Tang Menjing, Lu Anan looked aggrieved, tears rolling down her cheeks. Tang Menjing frowned and did not pay attention to her. However, Lu Anan walked up, covered her face and said, "My face. Look, she hit my face like this." In her eyes, Tang Menjing was without a doubt a reliable backer. In addition, Tang Menjing and Li Xiqing had known each other for so many years. As long as Tang Menjing wanted something, Li Xiqing would help her. With tears in her eyes, Lu Anan looked at Tang Menjing pitifully for help. Tang Menjing felt a bit impatient, but she still said softly, "Who is it?" "Su Qianxi." "Well?" Tang Menjing seemed to be hesitating and quietly looked up at Li Xiqing. His delicate facial features looked holy and noble under the luxurious crystal lights of the ancient European design. However, his perpetual indifference sent a strong signal that no one should approach him. His expression was as calm as ever. Unable to see or guess, Li Xiqing did not seem to hear the noise behind him and strode to Su Qianxi. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes were filled with deep shock. Li Xiqing was actually walking towards Su Qianxi? What did that mean? The gazes of the surrounding girls, which were originally filled with admiration, turned into astonishment in that instant. Then it turned into intense envy, jealousy, and hatred. Facing the shocked eyes of the people around her, Su Qianxi could only see that man. His heartbeat suddenly became heavier. It was as if every step he took was stomping on her heart, shaking her like that. He actually came? Shouldn't he choose to watch from the sidelines? Li Xiqing looked down and saw her exposed shoulder. His eyebrows furrowed imperceptibly. He reached out and unbuttoned his suit. His slender fingers swayed like a beautiful painting. Su Qianxi's head buzzed. He took off his clothes in public? What was he trying to do? Su Qianxi seemed to see the wheat-colored skin, clear lines and looming mermaid lines. Subconsciously, she took a step back, but he held her hand firmly in his. When she looked up, she was met with his deep, cold and reserved gaze. The moment their eyes met, Su Qianxi felt that he had been caught red-handed. Her cheeks immediately blushed. When she was about to say something to explain, he took off his suit and put it on her. Chapter 111. It's time to go home, honey? Honey, honey, honey. Su Qianxi's heart seemed to have been hit by something. Immediately, an indescribable feeling spread from the bottom of her heart. He was calling her? Su Qianxi was dazed, feeling like she was dreaming. However, the suit on his shoulder continued to emit the warmth that belonged solely to him. It was so real, so real. However, as soon as Li Xiqing's voice fell, there were waves of exclamations around him. Damn, what the hell? Su Qianxi's husband is Li Xiqing? No way, why would she like that? Before the indignant words were finished, she immediately trailed off and looked over timidly. Mr. Li. The female classmate who had insulted Su Qianxi suddenly became anxious. I was just joking with my old classmate. I did not mean to insult Su Qianxi, Mr. Li. Seeing her reaction, Lu Yihan's heart was unspeakably depressed. Li Xiqing had not said or done anything, but those people were already looking at him like that, trying to please him. At this moment, Lu Yihan felt like he was a clown. Overestimating one's capabilities and extremely lamentable. Looking at Li Xiqing and Su Qianxi standing side by side, they looked so compatible and harmonious. Of course, with such a man around, Chanshan did not need his protection and help at all, right? However, he was not willing to give up. However, it seemed that Li Xiqing did not hear the woman's flattering voice. Carefully putting the suit on Su Qianxi's blouse, he whispered, "Let's go." Putting his rough hand on Su Qianxi's nervously curled-up body, he pulled her toward the door of the banquet hall. Su Qianxi followed him, looking at the amazed, envious, jealous and incredulous eyes around her. She lowered her head, her heart pounding. It seemed that she had become the object of everyone's envy. However, what could she do? She felt like she had stolen all this, which was so unreal and unreliable. Subconsciously, Su Qianxi turned her head to look at the crowd. She saw Tang Menjing was still standing there, with Lu Ainan standing next to her with swollen cheeks. Like everyone else, Lu Ainan looked envious. Seeing her like this, Su Qianxi's heart, which had been uneasy, was very happy. Keeping up with his footsteps, she took his arm intimately and beamed like a blooming flower. Tang Menjing clenched her teeth so hard that they almost broke. Seeing Su Qianxi walking toward the door, Tang Menjing could no longer pretend. His heart was burning with rage, and an indescribable hatred was like a vine, climbing layer by layer. Based on what? Based on what? If it were not for Su Qianxi, Tang Menjing would be the one enjoying all this. Just as they were about to leave the banquet hall, the phone of the girl who had just insulted Su Qianxi rang. "Hey Dad." However, in less than 2 seconds, her face changed dramatically and she screamed, "What? How could this be? Wasn't everything fine this morning? How could it go bankrupt just like that?" Bankruptcy? Such a sensitive word caused everyone to look at her. Chapter 112. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. One by one, they cast their gazes towards the two people. The woman's mind was blank. Suddenly, she chased after Su Qianxi like crazy, yelling, "Mr. Li, Mr. Li." However, before she got close, she was stopped by a woman. Cheng Yu stood in front of her indifferently and said coldly, "It's useless." However, she would not give up. Pushing Cheng Yu away, she chased after Su Qianxi. However, someone else was faster. Fu Lingbing stopped her and pretended to comfort her. "Instead of thinking about how to apologize, why don't you think about how to save your family from the crisis? Am I right, Cheng Yu?" Fu Lingbing smiled seductively and looked at her, thinking that he was handsome. Cheng Yu only glanced at him and nodded. She turned to Tang Menjing and said, "Miss Tang, please sort out the information as soon as possible. I need it before 10 p.m. Being ordered around in front of so many people, Tang Menjing felt a bit embarrassed. However, Cheng Yu was her superior, so she could only nod. Cheng Yu took a deep look at Tang Menjing, turned around and walked away. Fu Lingbing's eyes lit up and couldn't help praising, "Cool. Fu Lingbing, let me go. That's too much." The woman cried and wanted to chase after her. However, in order to please Li Xiqing and the beauty, Fu Lingbing would not let her go. After a while, Cheng Yu's figure had disappeared. Tang Menjing did not look happy and gave Lu Ainan a hard stare. "Come here." Lu Ainan shivered and immediately followed Su Qianxi to a secluded corner. "Didn't I give you something? Why can't you do it properly?" Tang Menjing's voice was low, but her anger was obvious. Lu Ainan felt wronged. "I had already told the waiter to sell her the cocktail with extra ingredients, and I saw her drink it." "Why, cocktail?" Tang Menjing's face darkened. "Su Qianxi is allergic to cocktails and never drinks them. How can you not know?" Lu Ainan was dazed. "How come?" However, as she said that, she suddenly remembered something. Yes, what she added was a cocktail, and what Su Qianxi drank seemed to be champagne. However, she had been watching her all the time. Why did Su Qianxi have the time to change that glass of wine? Lu Ainan thought hard and suddenly remembered the time when Lin Wanting called her over for a talk. Less than a minute, but it was in that less than a minute that her eyes left Su Qianxi, right? Idiot, you can't even do such a small thing. I even went through so much trouble to help you clear your name on Weibo. If I knew you were so useless, I would have done it myself. Lu Ainan's face became paler and paler. She quickly said, cousin, don't be mad. I still have something up my sleeve. He's already gone. What other tricks do you have up your sleeve? Room? I asked Lin, wanting to use Su Qianxi's ID to open the room, so we can blame it on her. Tang Minjing gritted her teeth. Idiot. Can't they check the surveillance? And where's Lin Wanting? Lu Ainan was dazed and then realized that Lin Wanting was long gone. Chapter 113. Startled, Tang Minjing exclaimed, 5 pills? He could die. Lu Ainan was almost in tears. What should we do? I'll call an ambulance. However, before she could get through, Tang Minjing stopped her. Are you crazy? You could go to jail if you try to save him. What should we do? Tang Minjing looked gloomy and calm. Pretend you don't know anything and go back. Well, you want to go to jail? No. Then pretend you don't know anything and go home. The crowd gradually dispersed, but some people who were close to Li Xiqing stayed to drink and chat. It wasn't until 10 o'clock in the evening that the drinking party ended. When the last group of people was about to leave, a man who was close to Fu Lingbing suddenly asked, what is the room number that Su Qianxi just sent? F1805. What's wrong? I think there's no smoke without fire. If Mr. Li really believes it and breaks into the room, what do you think he will see? You want to see? Let's go. The group of people went to the 18th floor. As soon as they reached the door, they heard beast-like roars and the sound of things being smashed. They smiled and looked at each other. When they were about to leave, a girl suddenly shushed them and leaned against the door. I think I heard Lin Wanting's voice. The guys behind her were dazed and also leaned over curiously. Help! The weak cry for help shocked them all. The girl was close to Lin Wanting. After confirming that it was Lin Wanting inside, she immediately called the police. Someone went to the front desk to get the key. However, when he broke the door open, he smelled the scent of blood. On the other hand, Lin Wanting was dying. The moment she saw the door open, she burst into tears and screamed, "Help me!" Her voice was hoarse, with desperation and relief, completely different from her usual soft voice. Hearing it, everyone was shocked. The girl who was close to Lin Wanting almost cried and yelled, "Wanting!" Ding Haiba acted as if he didn't notice the movements around him, viciously venting his beast language. Below him was a bloody mess, unbearable to look at. When a few big men went up to pull Ding Haiba away, they were punched a few times. In the end, 3 men went up and forcibly suppressed Ding Haiba. Lin Wanting was almost half dead. When she was carried to the ambulance, there was a line of blood on the ground. This incident soon alerted the higher-ups of the local police station, and Chief Ding was implicated. He was summoned for interrogation that very night, and his position was suspended. Walking out of the banquet hall with his hand in hers, Su Qianxi felt like she was in a dream. Looking up at his firm profile, her heart raced out of her control. However, no matter how much his heart palpitated, he still had to know his limits, right? She took her hand back and blushed. Looking up, she asked, "Why are you here?" Li Xiqing's eyes were calm. Hearing her words, he naturally looked down and answered, "Looking for you." Su Qianxi's breath seemed to skip a beat as she stared at him blankly. "Looking for you." Chapter 114. Li Xiqing looked into her eyes and said calmly, "Let's go home." She nodded and looked at the black Maybach that had been waiting at the entrance of the hotel. Yang had already opened the door for them. Everything was so real. "Miss Su?" Su Qianxi heard a familiar voice and she turned around. It was Xing Shiming. "I didn't expect to see you here." His voice was full of surprise. However, the moment Xing Shiming saw Li Xiqing, his smile faded a bit. He walked over and asked Su Qianxi, "Is this your husband?" Su Qianxi nodded and looked at Li Xiqing. In her previous lifetime, Li Xiqing would never allow her to introduce herself like this. But now, Li Xiqing frowned and reached out his hand to Xing Shiming. "Hello, I've heard a lot about you. Nice to meet you." Xing Shiming also held Li Xiqing's hand, but there was a hint of hostility in his eyes. "Is your relationship okay?" The first thing Li Xiqing thought of was the divorce contract lying on his bedside table. It was stamped by Xingshi Law Firm, and the lawyer who signed it was Xing Shiming. What did that mean? He was so old and he was still lusting after a 20-year-old woman? Li Xiqing's eyes narrowed, and his expression softened a bit. Reaching out, he took her hand and announced, "Thank you for your concern. My relationship with my wife is completely fine. What do you think, honey?" Su Qianxi was caught off guard by that sensitive title again, and her heart skipped a beat. Seeing Li Xiqing's cold gaze and Xing Shiming's passionate one, she blushed and nodded. Let's go home. Li Xiqing let go of Xing Shiming's hand in satisfaction and took Su Qianxi in his arms, whispering, "Make noodles for me when we get home." Su Qianxi's head buzzed and she immediately blushed. Make noodles for him? Oh, was she dirty? Why did she? She couldn't help but push him away. What are you talking about? Let's go. Li Xiqing's eyes darkened. Looking at her seriously, he asked, "It's just a bowl of noodles. What are you thinking about?" Su Qianxi was speechless. Yang couldn't hold it in. Chuckling, Su Qianxi blushed even more. Looking up, she saw Xing Shiming's slightly complicated look and suddenly felt angry. She glared at him and pushed him away. Go away. I don't want to talk to you anymore. As he spoke, he got into the car. Seeing her so embarrassed, Li Xiqing's lips, which had been tightly pursed, slightly curled. Xing Shiming had mixed feelings. He had thought that their relationship must be very bad. That was why she sent him a divorce contract just a few days after their marriage. But now it seemed that it wasn't what he had imagined. Your wife is so cute. Thank you. I think so too. Li Xiqing's expression did not change. I'll leave now. Mr. Xing, please help yourself. After that, he turned around and got into the car. The black Maybach sped away, leaving Xing Shiming standing there with a complicated expression. He opened an old-fashioned pocket watch in his hand, and a picture suddenly appeared. Looking at the eyebrows, it was 70% similar to Su Qianxi. Chapter 115. After getting in the car, Su Qianxi wanted to find a hole to hide in. It was so embarrassing. How could she lose so much face in front of Uncle Xing? Sob, 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 her reputation. When Su Qianxi was feeling upset, Li Xiqing also got in the car. Feeling even more embarrassed, Su Qianxi slightly shrank into the car. Li Xiqing looked calm. After getting in the car, he loosened his tie and glanced at her embarrassed face. Curling his lips, he said calmly, "Tomorrow I will be on a business trip." His voice was icy cold, no different from usual. Su Qianxi felt a bit better. Oh. In her previous lifetime, he also went on a business trip the day after the class reunion. However, he didn't inform him about it. In the end, Su Qianxi learned from Tang Menjing that he was on a business trip to Australia. During this time, Tang Menjing would report Li Xiqing's schedule and status to her from time to time, showing off that she was with him all the time and that Su Qianxi was just a sad old woman. About a month. If you think the house is empty, you can go to the old house to spend some time with Grandpa. Okay. Although she knew that he would be on a business trip, thinking that Tang Menjing would be with him for a month, Su Qianxi did not feel comfortable. Looking up, she asked in a low voice, "Will Tang Menjing be there too?" Yes. Seeing that she did not look right, Li Xiqing frowned and explained, "She studied in Australia, so it will be more convenient with her." However, she did not have good intentions. Su Qianxi remembered that on the 20th day of their business trip, Tang Menjing accidentally called her and asked her to listen carefully to the sound of sex. Although she was not sure if that man was Li Xiqing. However, that kind of intimate breathing seemed to be shuttling through her ears, so clear, Su Qianxi's heart suddenly felt like it was pinched by something, making her feel uncomfortable. You mind her? It was not that Li Xiqing did not know how Tang Menjing felt about him, but he had always believed that he did not have to be afraid of the shadow. His feelings for Tang Menjing stopped at the level of a neighbor's sister. Nothing more. For so many years, he had turned a blind eye to the instigation and matchmaking of the elders. Even when his mother asked him to work as a secretary in his office, he had never refused. However, he had never thought that she would mind. Su Qianxi heard the question and blinked. Could she say it? She minded, she really minded. However, what right did she have to mind? She was about to divorce him, and there were less than 10 months left before their relationship would officially end. In addition, he had always liked Tang Menjing, not her, right? However, knowing was one thing, but his heart was still empty. She shook her head. I don't know about your work. Li Xiqing did not respond, and the atmosphere suddenly became silent. For the next 20 days he spent half of his time in the old house. For the rest of the time she would take art classes such as illustration and painting. Soon the new school year would begin. Summer passed quickly, and Su Qianxi entered her junior year and began to be very busy. On the 28th day of Li Xiqing's business trip, she received a call from Tang Menjing at 8 p.m. Chapter 116. His heart trembled violently. Staring at the phone that kept ringing, she was a bit dazed. Tang Minjing, Li Xiqing, she reached out and took the phone. Staring at the answer button, she did not dare to touch it for a long time. Her heart felt like it had been pinched, so sore and painful. Should she answer it? She did not dare to. She was afraid to hear those horrible sounds, the moans that had echoed in her mind for countless days and nights. Should she not answer it? But what if things in this life had deviated more and more from the track of her previous life, hadn't they? What if this life was also different from the previous one? Su Qinsi felt she was in a dilemma and panicked. Answer it, why not give it a try? He had already experienced it once, hadn't he? Answer it. There was a voice in her heart that kept urging her. When the phone was about to automatically hang up, she pressed the answer button. Oh, Brother Xiqing. Slow down. On the other side of the phone, Tang Minjing was moaning and moaning, mixed with the man's low panting and the faint sound of sex. Brother Xiqing. You are so good. His heart was instantly torn and dripping with fresh blood. The phone fell from her hand and she couldn't help but burst into tears. He knew it would be like this. Why did he answer the phone? Why did he torture himself like this? Why? She knew that the man did not love her, but she still could not help but give her heart to him. Lying down, she covered her head with the quilt and burst into tears. She had never felt so cheap as she did at this moment. All the fluttering in his heart vanished in an instant. She didn't want to love him anymore, not ever again. Boss, the tickets have been booked, but... Qingyu was hesitant. Do you have to be in such a hurry? It will be the same tomorrow, right? Li Xiqing crossed his legs and leaned on the sofa, looking noble. Glancing at her, he slowly got up from the sofa, without any intention to explain. Let's go. Qingyu felt a bit resentful. This workaholic boss had not only shortened the original 1 month to 28 days, but he also wanted to go back to China overnight? Oh dear. What kind of sin did she commit to actually follow such a boss? However, when he was about to walk out of the hotel, he received a call from Tang Minjing. Brother Xiqing. I'm in the room. Can you help me? I feel terrible. Frowning slightly, Li Xiqing was a bit dissatisfied, but he still asked, What's wrong? I feel terrible. Brother Xiqing, I will wait for you in the room. With obvious disgust in his eyes, Li Xiqing was a bit impatient. However, Tang Minjing had always been sensible. If there was nothing urgent, she would not have called him. After thinking for a while, he went upstairs to the room she was in. However, as soon as he entered the room, he smelled a strong smell of alcohol. Tang Minjing threw herself at him, her body soft. As if struck by lightning, Li Xiqing's first reaction was to push her away. Brother Xiqing, those people just made me drink a lot. I feel so bad. Indeed, Tang Minjing drank a bit too much. She had played a huge role in getting the business so smoothly this time. But what was the point of calling him to her room in the middle of the night? Chapter 117. Enough. Li Xiqing pushed her away with a cold face and stepped aside. I still have something to do. Have a good rest here and go back tomorrow. Tang Minjing heard the cold words and immediately burst into tears. Brother Xiqing, you did not treat me like this before. You did not treat me like this at all. Why? I am married. I don't care. I don't care, Brother Xiqing. Tang Minjing said and was about to throw herself at Li Xiqing. Tang Minjing was wearing the mature low-cut evening gown that she had just worn to the party. At this moment, her chest was wide open, and more than half of the 2 balls in front of her were exposed. Her eyes were like silk, and her body was seductive. Qingyu secretly clicked her tongue, but it was not that she did not deny that Tang Minjing was extremely attractive like this. Even a woman like her had a reaction, let alone a normal man like Li Xiqing. However, it was clear that Qingyu had underestimated her big boss. On Li Xiqing's face, the expression on his face became colder. He took a step back and said in a deep voice, Qingyu, help her sober up. I don't care, Brother Xiqing. You said before that you would marry me. Have you forgotten all about it? Li Xiqing paused and whispered, I did say that if the elders asked me to marry you, I would not refuse. Tang Minjing's face was overflowing with joy, but Li Xiqing's words immediately changed. But Grandpa asked me to marry another woman. Li Xiqing seemed to see that panicked and shy face, and the coldness in his eyes slightly softened. She is very good and I do not have a hobby of cheating. Then he strode in the direction of the elevator. Tang Minjing's heart was dead and she cried loudly. Qingyu's heart trembled and she sympathized with Tang Minjing. As a woman, Qingyu was very clear about how destructive Li Xiqing's words were. Looking at Tang Minjing's crazy look, Qingyu was even a little worried that she would commit suicide. That was so cruel. Miss Tang, go away. Go away. Don't think I don't know that you also want him. You also like Brother Xiqing. Tang Minjing suddenly pushed her. You want to laugh at me now, right? Get lost. Cheng Yu was furious, and the idea of helping her sober up disappeared in an instant. She stomped her feet and gritted her teeth. You deserve it. Bitches are so unreasonable. With that, he left without looking back. Tang Minjing leaned against the door frame of the room. The makeup on her face was somewhat ruined, and she cried her heart out. But soon the alcohol hit her, making her even more dizzy. She leaned against the door frame. He didn't know how long he had been in this half-drunk, half-dreaming state. Suddenly he felt a pair of large hands moving around his body. When he opened his eyes, he could only see a blurry silhouette. His facial features were unclear, but he was tall. Brother Xiqing, oh, delicious Chinese girls, I like them. Tang Minjing was startled and wanted to push the man away, but he had already carried her into the room. Subconsciously she wanted to resist, but vaguely she seemed to see Li Xiqing's face. Brother Xiqing. Tang Minjing hugged the man in front of her and called him passionately. Chapter 118. When she got up early in the morning, she found that her eyes had become goldfish eyes. However, this morning was her favorite professor's class, so she had to find a pair of sunglasses and go to class with her goldfish eyes. When she took off her sunglasses in class, people kept asking her what was going on, and she received a lot of love. Fortunately, she did not have any classes in the afternoon. After class, she hurriedly put on her sunglasses and walked out of the classroom. She took out her cell phone and called Louis Han. For her future livelihood, she had to put that plan on the agenda. She met Louis Han in a quiet coffee shop and went straight to the point. I want to invest in your company. Louis Han was dazed and smiled. Stop joking, Mrs. Li. I don't want your investment. In Louis Han's view, Su Qinxi wanted to invest only because he was poor now. He did not need this kind of sympathy. Having known him for so many years, she naturally knew what he was thinking. Although Louis Han looked sloppy and lazy, he had a strong sense of self-esteem. In addition, he was competitive and proud. How could he accept her investment? Su Qinxi straightened up and looked serious. I'm serious. I want to earn some money. Is your husband's money not enough for you to spend? Shaking her head, Su Qinxi looked a bit upset. I can't spend his money for the rest of my life. People always have to find a way out, don't they? Louis Han seemed to have heard something different. Raising an eyebrow, he took a sip of coffee. Oh, did Mrs. Li quarrel with Mr. Li? No. Then why are you doing this? Su Qinxi did not answer directly but narrowed her eyes and said, 3 million. I will sell you a piece of information. Holy crap, 3 million? Louis Han almost jumped up and exclaimed incredulously, we are just a small team of college students. Are you not afraid that I will run away with the money? Louis Han looked at her as if she was a fool. You don't want it? Yes. Louis Han quickly agreed. However, I don't need that much. I only need 800,000 to start a new project. 5 million. I want 30% of your company's shares. In addition, I will invest in your new project. How about it? Louis Han's mouth could almost fit an egg. He looked at her as if she was crazy. Do you trust me that much? 5 million isn't a small amount, sis. If I want to run, you won't even be able to find my dregs. Then will you run? She asked. Of course not. Louis Han's first reaction was to answer, but soon he understood and smiled. Okay, are you serious? Of course. 5 million is the largest amount of liquidity I can take out now. Isn't this sincerity enough? Of course it's enough. Louis Han chuckled, feeling both emotional and frustrated. What made him sigh was that Su Qinxi used to be so poor. In addition to going to class, she worked part-time. He did not expect that she would be so rich one day. What was frustrating was that Su Qinxi used to be so poor. Now she had turned over a new leaf, but she was still like this. It was really so sad. After discussing the detailed terms for about half an hour, the two of them walked out of the cafe. Chapter 119. Ma'am, Yang called. Su Qinxi was dazed, walked over and frowned. How did you know I was here? Yang blinked his eyes with a, you know what I mean, expression on his face. Needless to say, it must be Li Xiqing. Frowning, Su Qinxi looked dissatisfied. She had just left school and she had never told anyone that she was here. How did he follow her? She felt like she was being followed. Fortunately, Li Xiqing was on a business trip and would not be back for another 7 or 8 days. Now only Yang saw her with Louis Han. Otherwise, if Li Xiqing saw them together, he might not know what to think. Thinking about it, Su Qinxi said, Don't tell him that I met Louis Han today. Hearing this, Yang's expression became a little strange. He blinked his eyes as if he was trying to signal her with his eyes. Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat, not knowing if it was her illusion. Just as she finished speaking, a dangerous aura instantly spread out. What? Something to hide? A low, cold voice came from the back seat of the car, with a strong depression as if from the ancient hell, and Su Qianxi's face suddenly changed. Was him? He was back. She quickly turned her head and looked at the back seat. However, from her angle she could not see through it. Qian, let's go. Louis Han urged her, but Su Qianxi clearly felt that the air seemed to be even colder. The window of the back seat was rolled down, and Li Xiqing's profile appeared in front of Su Qianxi. Li Xiqing looked sideways and narrowed his eyes. Where are you going? Inexplicably, Su Qianxi felt uneasy. She said that just to make Li Xiqing not think too much. However, she did not expect that the guy was sitting quietly in the back seat. In this way she could not explain herself even if she had 10 mouths. When she was thinking about how to explain, she suddenly thought of him and Tang Menjing panting like crazy last night. Last night he was still having sex with Tang Menjing, and today he came back to Kingstown to follow her? He was so strong. The tension in her heart subsided, and the trace of guilt and uneasiness that she had felt just now completely disappeared. Facing his threatening gaze, she smiled and said, I'm going to dinner. Mr. Li, are you interested in joining us? Her smile was as bright as a flower. The moment it appeared, it stole his eyes. However, Li Xiqing's eyes were colder. He thought she would give him an explanation. As long as it was reasonable, he would consider forgiving her. However, how could she so blatantly admit to him that she wanted to have dinner with Louis Han? I made dinner at home. But I have an appointment with a friend. She looked down at her watch. Sorry, he has been waiting for me for a long time. Mr. Li, I'm leaving. With that, he really turned around and left. Li Xiqing's originally cold and calm eyes were gradually filled with a bit of anger. This woman. What did she mean by that? Now, she didn't even want to pretend anymore? Su Qianxi. He couldn't help but say, suppressing his anger. Get in the car. I said I have something to do. Su Qianxi looked a bit cold, looking cold and distant. But Louis Han clearly saw the change in Su Qianxi's expression and was dazed. Cold, extremely cold. Louis Han had never seen Su Qianxi look like this. He couldn't help glancing at Meibaduo and immediately saw Li Xiqing, who also looked gloomy. Did the couple have a fight? Could it be that he had become a cannon fodder again? Chapter 120. Seeing Li Xiqing's cold gaze, Louis Han slightly shrank his head. Looking at Su Qianxi's cold face, Louis Han thought for a second and said, Why don't you go back with Mr. Li? We can have dinner another day. It's okay. Su Qianxi smiled. It's okay. Mr. Li likes this kind of game, so he won't mind at all, right? In her words there was a hidden meaning. Her beautiful eyes wandered on Li Xiqing's face, full of meaning. Then she opened the door of Louis Han's car and got in. Louis Han saw that Li Xiqing's face looked even worse and felt very uneasy. It seemed that he had run into something big again. First, Su Qianxi inexplicably talked to him about investment, and then she was so blatantly throwing Li Xiqing's face away. It would be weird if it was not a fight. Louis Han felt a bit sad to have such a friend. However, for the good life of his friend, Louis Han still looked at Li Xiqing coldly and said, I will help you talk to her. However, when Li Xiqing heard that, his hand on the door clenched into a fist. His veins bulged and he punched the door hard. Yang was startled. He had never seen Li Xiqing like this. What was going on? Let's go home. Yang hesitated. How about we go with Mrs. Li? Don't make me say it again. Yang shivered, immediately turned the steering wheel and drove in the direction of home. When they got home after dinner, it was already past 8 p.m. Louis Han was very good at making small talk. Su Qianxi's bad mood had become a lot better. However, no matter how good her mood was, when she saw her cheating husband when she got home, her mood instantly plummeted. Seeing Li Xiqing sitting on the sofa in the living room, Su Qianxi's soft expression suddenly became cold. Li Xiqing clearly saw her expression. The anger that he had been suppressing all day was suddenly ignited. This woman was really different when she was with Louis Han than when she was with him. Was she that impatient to be with him? As if she did not see him, she walked past him and went upstairs. Li Xiqing clenched his fists and angrily threw the files in his hand, making a loud noise. She was startled, but she still straightened her back and walked to her room on the second floor. She liked him. She loved him. However, she was not cheap. Such a man, what she can do now is to stay away. Seeing that Su Qianxi was indifferent, Li Xiqing felt like there was a fire in his heart. This woman, Li Xiqing had never been treated like this in his entire life. However, it was precisely at times like this that Li Xiqing was able to remain calm. He sat down again, took out a cigarette and slowly lit it. He said in a deep voice, "I've said it before. It's not that I don't allow you to make friends, but don't go too far." Su Qianxi paused and sneered, "Shouldn't you be self-disciplined before you try to control others? If he can't even control himself, what right does he have to control me?" Li Xiqing paused. What did she mean? Besides, it is clearly stated in the divorce contract that we will not interfere in each other's private lives. Mr. Li, aren't you being a busybody? Chapter 121. Li Xiqing's fingers holding the cigarette slightly closed. The fragile cigarette was twisted and broken at that moment. Not interfering with each other's private life? Suddenly the phone on the table rang. Was Qingyu. "Boss, the set of jewelry you ordered is ready. If everything goes well, you can receive it on your wife's birthday next month." Okay, Li Xiqing responded casually. Qingyu could tell that Li Xiqing was no longer interested in ordering this set of jewelry. Feeling a bit scared, Qingyu tentatively asked, "Do you want to see the design?" "It's up to you." Okay. Qingyu felt even more strange. Although Li Xiqing was busy a few days ago, he was still very concerned about this matter. Why did he suddenly change his mind? "I think it's pretty good. Let's get to work?" Okay. Hanging up the phone, Li Xiqing leaned on the sofa and blew out a long smoke ring. The soft and warm light of the lamp fell on him, making his deep and cold eyes even deeper. Thinking about it, he sent a text message to Qingyu. "Send me the design." In addition to going to class, Su Qianxi practiced with Lu Yihan every day. In the beginning, Lu Yihan was completely shocked by her well-practiced business ideas. From the beginning, he thought that Su Qianxi just wanted to get by and get shares. In the end, their admiration and respect for her could be said to be endless like a surging river. Su Qianxi was not arrogant in the face of his compliments. After all, she had lived 5 years longer than him. However, in the next half a month, Su Qianxi did not see Li Xiqing at home. Originally, she was afraid that when she saw him, she could not help but think too much. However, she found that she would think even more when she did not see him. Forget it, it was no big deal. When the Cold War lasted for more than 20 days, she received a call from Captain Li. "Grandpa? Chan, have you eaten?" "Yes." "Oh, did you and Xiqing quarrel recently?" Su Qianxi heard that and replied, "No." "Really?" "I really didn't." "Who told you?" "Oh, I heard from Nanny Rong that the boy hasn't stayed at home for almost 2 months. I didn't say anything when he went on a business trip in August, but I heard that he has been staying in a hotel this month. He almost wants to stay here for a long time." "You still want to lie to me?" Hearing Captain Li's reproachful tone, Su Qianxi suddenly felt sad. Whether it was her previous life or this life, her grandfather was the only elder who loved and cared for her. He was also the only role model that she could rely on and respect. However, she still denied, "No, we did not fight." "So that brat bullied you?" "Grandpa, it's not like that. Maybe Nanny Rong misunderstood. We are very close." "You still want to protect that kid?" "Forget it, the school is closed for the National Day holiday, right? What's the plan?" "Not at the moment." "How about going to play with Grandpa?" Su Qianxi was dazed, and her expression immediately became strange. She asked, "You want to play?" Chapter 122. An eye-opener? Captain Li Sun had never been to the Maldives? She did not believe it. However, she could not say that out loud. She hesitated. "Well, you don't want to go with me because I'm an old man?" Captain Li sighed. "I'm getting old. Even my granddaughter-in-law doesn't want to go with me." "I don't," Su Qianxi quickly retorted. "That's settled then. Don't go back on your word." Su Qianxi was speechless. Why did she feel that he was the one who would go back on his word? After hanging up, someone knocked on the door. It was Nanny Rong. "Ma'am, dinner is ready." "Okay, I'll go down later." When she opened the door, she saw Nanny Rong was still standing at the door. "Ma'am, this is for you." Nanny Rong handed her a small envelope. Su Qianxi looked down and took it out. It was a photo. In the photo, an elegant white grand piano was placed under layers of wisteria. Golden sunlight shone through the gaps of the wisteria, decorating the piano with bits of gold. A girl in white was sitting in front of the piano, playing with her eyes down. Her face was wet. Behind the girl was a tall and sturdy figure. His expression was Su Qinxi saw the man's expression and saw some softness on his face. It was completely different from his usual coldness. Was it her illusion? You took this? Nanny Rong nodded and said, in fact Mr. Li is not as cold as he looks. I raised him since he was a child and I know him too well. He doesn't say it but he has already approved of you. Su Qinxi was dazed by Nanny Rong's words. Seeing her change, Nanny Rong thought that she had understood and continued, there is nothing between a husband and wife that can't be reconciled. Talk to Mr. Li and ask him to move back here. It's not appropriate for him to live in a hotel every day without anyone to take care of him. Don't blame me for being talkative. In fact, Sir's temper is very good. Although he doesn't like to talk to people, he won't do anything excessive to anyone. I believe that there is a reason for everything he does. Don't argue with Mr. anymore. I feel uncomfortable seeing you like this. Nanny Rong said earnestly, I'm going to retire in a few years and I wanted to help you take care of the kids for a few years. Aren't you making me worry for nothing? Su Qinxi's eyes looked down and a bitter smile appeared on her lips. What Nanny Rong said made sense. But she didn't know. She didn't know anything at all. This time it wasn't her fault. The phone call that night was like a thorn in her flesh. He wanted to pull it out but he couldn't. Not to mention the disgust, there were also bursts of pain from time to time. I know Nanny Rong. Hey, I called Sir but he didn't come back today. That's why I called old Mister. Don't blame me for being nosy. I'm doing this for your own good. That's fine. Thank you, Nanny Rong. Seeing Su Qinxi's perfunctory attitude, Nanny Rong was exasperated. Well, at 9 o'clock in the evening Su Qinxi took a shower and walked out of the living room. Before taking a shower, she was discussing the direction of the new project with Louis Han. The computer was still on the interface of the chat box. However, now it was on the desktop. Someone had touched her computer. At this time, Nanny Rong had already gotten off work. There could be no one else at home except her. Her heart seemed to be in her throat, and her hair stood on end. Chapter 123. This thought made Su Qinxi vigilant. Suddenly there was a slight noise from the kitchen. It was very light but it was real. Su Qinxi's heart was in her throat. Quietly she went to the table and took her phone. She pressed the 3 numbers that people were familiar with and went to the kitchen. However, before she walked in, a meat wall suddenly appeared in front of her. Su Qinxi was startled and took a step back. However, she was too fast and tripped over her right foot, falling backward. Just when she thought she was going to fall miserably, the meat wall in front of her immediately moved. Su Qinxi's arm was grabbed and pulled up. She fell steadily on a broad chest. The familiar scent that she had not seen for a long time came into her nose, and her heart couldn't help but race. When he raised his eyes, he found himself in a pitch-black sea of stars. So deep, so thick, her heart continued to race, but she quickly recovered and pushed the man in front of her away. Suppressing the uncontrollable panic in her heart, she quickly looked away and asked awkwardly, when did you come back? Seeing that she seemed to be frightened, Li Xiqing suddenly wanted to ravage her. An indescribable fire burst from his lower abdomen and went straight to the bottom of his heart. Reaching out, he loosened his collar. She seemed to still smell the fragrance of the shower, and her unique scent lingered for a long time. His heart that had been calm and cold for a long time was a little restless. She had just drunk water, but she was still so thirsty. Ignoring her question, Li Xiqing turned to open the fridge again, poured himself a large glass of ice water and drank it up. Su Qinxi felt a little empty and a little disappointed. However, she had expected it, hadn't she? Turning around, she went back to the computer and remembered something. Li Xiqing had just touched her computer? She turned her head and was about to question him when she realized that he was walking towards her. He lowered his eyes to glance at her computer screen, but he quickly shifted his gaze away and said calmly, "Shouldn't you fulfill your duties as a wife?" Hearing that, Su Qinxi was dazed. He abruptly turned his head to look at Zhang Xian, his eyes filled with shock and disbelief. Li Xiqing's eyes were calm. When he met her gaze, his eyes seemed to become deeper, flickering with some unknown meaning. Seeing that he did not seem to be joking at all, she became a bit nervous. "Li Xiqing, the contract says that you can't force me to do that with you unless both parties are willing." "That? Which one?" Li Xiqing raised an eyebrow, his eyes cold and filled with confusion. Seeing him being so serious, she felt a bit guilty. Why did his expression make it seem as though she was asking him to fulfill his marital obligations? Li Xiqing looked calm as usual. Glancing at her slightly shocked expression, he said seriously, "I just asked you to cook." "What are you thinking? Do cook?" Li Xiqing didn't think there was anything wrong with what she said. Raising an eyebrow, he asked, "Do you think, do what? Sex?" Su Qianxi waited for him to continue and subconsciously held her breath. "Isn't food your duty as a wife?" Hearing that, she was dazed. Then Su Qianxi's face suddenly turned red, and the heat spread from the tip of her ears to the base of her neck. Chapter 124. Su Qianxi's face suddenly turned red, and the heat spread from the tip of her ears to the base of her neck. Yes, he was talking about the duty of a wife, not the duty of a couple. At first she did not hear the difference. So embarrassing. "I've lost my face to the Pacific Ocean." With a strong regret, Su Qianxi felt extremely embarrassed at the moment. When she looked up again, she saw his calm and cold eyes. In the bottom of her eyes that she could not see, the coldness that had not changed for thousands of years suddenly melted. Li Xiqing clearly noticed her embarrassment. Staring at her little face that was obviously so embarrassed that she wanted to die, he stood behind the sofa and slightly leaned toward her. Seeing his tall figure suddenly leaning toward her, Su Qianxi was dazed. Staring at his handsome face, she forgot to move. His handsome eyebrows were slightly raised, and his voice was deep and slightly sexy. It was like a heavy cello playing beside her ear, ringing in her ear. "You think I want to say sex?" Su Qianxi's head suddenly buzzed. She suddenly stood up from the sofa and covered his mouth to stop him from saying anything. Before Li Xiqing finished his words, his mouth was covered. He had never been treated like this. This woman was getting bolder and bolder. However, in front of him, the pair of bright black eyes seemed to be shouting, "Don't say it, don't say it." The soft and fragrant sensation on his lips made it seem as though she was openly asking for a kiss. Tightly pressed against his lips, every corner of his body was inseparable from hers. His eyes became darker and darker. Su Qianxi looked into his eyes, wishing she could find a hole to hide in and never come out again. Would he think she was a slut? Would he think that he wanted to do that with her? She had never been so embarrassed. This feeling was incredible. But soon she realized that she had actually covered his mouth with her hand. Her heart skipped a beat. She quickly took her hand back, too nervous to know where to put it. Wenji. This world was too crazy. Li Xiqing hated it the most when someone touched him, especially his face and head. And now she had actually done such a heaven-defying thing. Under his intense gaze, Su Qianxi blushed and said nervously, I'll go make something for you to eat." After saying that, he took a step forward and ran into the kitchen as if he was escaping. Li Xiqing watched her run away. His lips, which had been sealed for a long time, slightly curled up, but it was fleeting. She retracted her gaze and looked at the computer screen that had been lit up all along. She locked onto her most commonly used social media account ID. Thousands of Suci. It was indeed a good name. There were not many things left in the fridge. Because Li Xiqing was not there were only some eggs and millet that could be stored. Thinking about it, she cooked some millet porridge with a side dish and put it on the table. Li Xiqing had already showered. Seeing this simple supper, he sat down. I'll go back to my room first. Enjoy your meal." "Wait." Su Qianxi paused and froze. Chapter 125. Hearing that, Su Qianxi turned around. Coincidentally, the man behind her also looked over at the same time. Their eyes met. That pair of black eyes were ice-cold, deep, and bottomless. Just looking at her quietly made Su Qianxi feel a sense of cold oppression. "It's about the divorce." The low voice came again. Divorce? These two words, which he hadn't heard for a long time, suddenly entered his ears. Su Qianxi's heart was in a mess at that moment. What did he want? Early divorce? Facing his threatening eyes, Su Qianxi suddenly felt a bit embarrassed. His heart was filled with grievance and panic. In an instant it was overflowing. Now he was not even willing to lie to Grandpa? Was he so eager to be with Tang Menjing that he wanted to break up with her? His calmness reminded her of the scene in her previous lifetime when he asked her to sign the divorce agreement. Divorce. Just 3 words, but they were the last words he said to her in her previous lifetime. Looking at his serious and cold eyes, Su Qianxi seemed to see him 5 years later. Cold and decisive. Her eyes wet, Su Qianxi turned around and said in a low voice, "I have nothing to talk to you about." Walking quickly to the sofa, she was about to put away her computer and go upstairs when he said, "Stop." His voice was a bit low and dissatisfied. Su Qianxi paused but soon went to the coffee table and put away her computer. Turning a deaf ear to what he said, she walked toward the stairs. If it were before, she might have stopped. But now, why should she listen to him? If you take one more step, he said coldly, you can forget about the company. Su Qianxi paused and suddenly turned around. How did you know? Hearing that, there seemed to be a hint of sarcasm in his eyes. Do you think you can hide what I want to know from me? Su Qianxi suddenly felt a chill down her spine. Incredulously she asked, you spied on me? Seeing her stop, Li Xiqing looked satisfied and did not deny it. Glancing at the seat opposite him, he ordered coldly, sit down. After that, he leisurely picked up a pair of chopsticks and elegantly began to eat. Looking at his elegant look, Su Qianxi felt a chill in her heart. This man had been spying on her? It seemed like he didn't care about her, but in fact she had always been living under his watch? This sort of thing was terrifying to think about. That's right, how could she forget? It was Li Xiqing. Before the age of 26, he had single-handedly made a name for himself in Kingstown. He had even brought his company to international heights before the age of 30. What else could such a man not do? Frozen for a moment, she turned and walked toward him. However, every step was extremely difficult. She didn't want to talk to him. She didn't want a divorce now. No matter how much he hated her, no matter how much he wanted to be with Tang Menjing, she would take the title of Mrs. Li. And Tang Menjing could only be a mistress. Before she completely destroyed Tang Menjing, she would not divorce. It was time to put the plan to destroy Tang Menjing on the agenda. However, this was definitely not the time. But now, what about her company? What about Louis Han's company? Chapter 126. When she was still hesitating, her lower abdomen suddenly twitched, as if a nerve was suddenly twitching, and her face suddenly paled. It hurt. Something was clearly dripping down, and Su Qianxi immediately understood what was going on. Since the miscarriage, she had not had her period. Could it be? What a coincidence. However, it hurt so much. With a pale face, Su Qianxi slowly squatted down and put the computer in her hands on the ground. Cold sweat appeared on her forehead. At the dinner table, Li Xiqing was slowly eating the porridge she made herself, looking elegant and noble. A small bowl of millet porridge was quickly finished. However, just as he finished a bowl of porridge, Su Qianxi had not come over yet. Li Xiqing looked dissatisfied. Looking up, he found that the woman did not look very good. What's wrong? Li Xiqing saw that she was obviously not right, frowned, put down the bowl of porridge and walked over. Nothing. Don't come over. Su Qianxi waved her hand, but the continuous pain made her feel uncomfortable. However, Li Xiqing had already squatted down and reached out to touch her forehead. It's so cold. Are you sick? Su Qianxi shook her head again and again. I'm fine. You don't have to worry about me. Although she said that, she felt that she was about to collapse. She had to go back to the room to find something to cushion herself, but, seeing his slightly nervous and confused face, Su Qianxi breathed even more quickly. She did not look very good. Feeling a little embarrassed, she whispered, "Can you stay away for a while? I may have that." Li Xiqing was dazed for a second, but he quickly realized what she was talking about. There was a rare trace of embarrassment on his face. However, seeing her obviously not good face, he frowned. "Does it hurt a lot? Let me help you." "No, turn around. Don't look at me." Li Xiqing saw her shyness, stood up and turned his back to her. Seeing his back, Su Qianxi let out a sigh of relief. Resisting the sharp pain in her lower abdomen, she stood up. However, before she stood up, she suddenly blacked out and fell to the side without warning. The sound of someone falling made him quickly look back. At a glance, he saw Su Qianxi, who had fainted on the ground, and was shocked. He immediately squatted down and gently patted her face. "Su Qianxi? So cold." Her body looked as if it was soaked in water. Cold sweat flowed continuously, and it was frighteningly cold. What the hell? Wasn't he here for that? Wasn't that normal for women? But why did she feel like she was about to die? Suddenly feeling empty, he immediately picked her up, strode out, and took her to the hospital. She was sent to the emergency department in the middle of the night, only to find out that she had fainted because she was on her period. The doctor on duty seemed a little impatient. "Who are you to her?" "Husband." "Husband? Is she still like this even though she's married?" Li Xiqing was wearing casual home clothes, and his clothes and pants were stained with blood. Facing the doctor's question, he pursed his lips and said nothing. It was the first time for him to see a woman having that kind of thing. He had no experience at all. The doctor pursed his lips and said as he prescribed the medicine, "In this case, it's either too much sex or too little sex. Young people should pay more attention. All right, go home after the drip and pay the bill." Chapter 127. For more than a month, it was rare for Qingyu to get off the morning shift. She was going to take a shower and have a good sleep. However, with a call from her big boss, she had to go to the hospital to deliver clothes to the boss's wife. What a tough life. When she arrived, Li Xiqing was accompanying Su Qianxi to get in for drip. One was lying down pretending to be dead, and the other was sitting pretending to be cool. They were speechless and the atmosphere was a bit cold. Qingyu blinked, seeing the subtle atmosphere, and awkwardly put the clothes on the side of Su Qianxi's bed. Li Xiqing glanced at a pack of tampons in the bag, pursed his lips and stood up from the chair. Help her change. After saying that, he walked out. Qingyu looked at his back and suddenly felt a bit funny. In the middle of the night, her big boss was sent to the hospital by his wife and was covered in blood. If such news got out, she didn't know what people would write. However, the boss's wife was really lucky. Qingyu felt a little envious, but she still took out the clothes and said, I went to buy clothes in the middle of the night. Fortunately, I found a shop that was not closed. I just bought it casually. Just wear it. Thank you. It's so troublesome. Su Qianxi was a bit embarrassed and looked much better than before. He asked you to come so late at night. This guy is really... He did not care about her at all. It's okay. I'm used to it. Qingyu looked bitter and glanced at the drip. The water is out. I'll help you get changed. No, I'll do it myself. After changing clothes and walking out again, it was already 1 o'clock in the morning. Li Xiqing saw that her clothes were obviously a size bigger, and his lips were even more straight. He looked at Qingyu who followed him. Qingyu quickly waved her hand and looked wronged. I didn't know what size she wore, so I bought it according to my own size. Who knew she was so thin? Besides, he was the one who did not even tell her his wife's size. He was the one who was abnormal. Hearing that, Li Xiqing accepted this reason. With his hands in his pocket, he walked in front. Let's go. Although Su Qianxi was on the drip, her lower abdomen still hurt. Along the way, he walked faster with Qingyu's help. However, when she got home and got out of the car, she felt a bit weak. He bent his waist and took small steps forward. His face was so pale that it looked a little green. Walking behind her, Li Xiqing frowned and strode forward, reaching out and carrying her in his arms. Su Qianxi was shocked and exclaimed, wrapping her arms around his neck. Li Xiqing's body stiffened slightly. Looking down, he saw her obviously frightened eyes. Like a little deer that was being bullied. He strode back to his house. At the door, she became a bit naughty and struggled to get down. I can walk by myself. Open the door. Li Xiqing ignored her and said. His voice was a bit low and she clearly sensed his unhappiness. Consciously closing her mouth, she entered the password and opened the door. As soon as he entered the door, he carried her up to the second floor, sent her to her room and put her on the bed. Finally lying down again, she felt comfortable and exhaled. Thank you for today. He glanced at her coldly and walked out, closing the door behind him. Damn it, he should have checked the almanac before coming back. Chapter 128. When Su Qianxi slept, she still felt very uncomfortable in the first half of the night. But in the latter half of the night, the throbbing pain in her lower abdomen seemed to be covered by a warm sensation. It was as if a heat pack had been placed on her lower abdomen, and the pain gradually lessened. Gradually, she fell into a comfortable sleep. When she woke up the next day, it was already past 8 a.m. Seeing this time, Su Qianxi immediately perked up and bounced up. That was it. Today was Abbess Miju's class and attendance would be called. If she was found to have skipped class, then the consequences would be serious. She hurriedly got up. Her lower abdomen was much better than last night, but it still hurt. She hurriedly changed her clothes. Before she finished washing up, Nanny Rong had made her brown sugar water and brought it to her. Don't worry. Mr. Li has already asked for leave for you. Su Qianxi was dazed. Where is he? He's at work, but I just asked him. He will be back after work. Okay. Hearing that he had already asked for leave, Su Qianxi was not so nervous and slowed down. After drinking the brown sugar water, she lay on the bed again. Guyu stand. Su Qianxi fell asleep again, and when she woke up, it was already past noon. After a simple meal, she turned on the computer and entered the most commonly used chat tool. Lu Yihan had indeed sent the plan over, and the file was waiting to be accepted. However, what attracted Su Qianxi's attention was a verification message. System, user L requests to add you as a friend. Oh, what the hell? She clicked on the information and the profile picture was blank. There was only a simple letter in the username, and the rest of the information was blank. However, the account registration time showed that it was 8 years ago. Thinking about it, Su Qianxi still clicked accept and then went to read the document sent by Louis Han. Halfway through, another message popped up. Wanting, Su Qianxi, are you there? It was from Lin Wanting. Su Qianxi saw her name and felt it had been a long time. Since the last incident, she had heard about what happened to her. It was very miserable, but she deserved it. Seeing the 4 words that she had sent, he still replied, yes. Wanting, give me your account number and I will pay you back. Wanting, where did you get the money? Wanting, I am getting married. Don't you know? Su Qianxi, Wanting, it's all thanks to you, ha. If it wasn't for you, how could I have married into the Ding clan? Thanks to you I married Ding Haiba. If it wasn't for me you'd be ruined. Shouldn't you be grateful to me? You may have destroyed me, but I still have to tell you. My wedding is on the 10th of next month. Be sure to come. Where is he? Su Qianxi, Lin Wanting said a lot, but she could feel that every word was full of resentment. Wanting, you don't dare to face me? Su Qianxi, Yalian, do you know how to write it? You can save the hundreds of thousands for your medical expenses. I heard that Ding Haibo really knows how to have fun. If I don't give you money when the time comes, you won't even have money for medical treatment. Hearing this, Lin Wanting's face changed dramatically. She slammed the keyboard and said angrily, bitch. Holding the pen next to his hand, he fiercely inserted it into a photo on the table. The place where the pen was inserted happened to be Su Qianxi's face. However, Lu Anan looked even worse than her. Chapter 129. Closing the chat with Lin Wanting, Su Qianxi collapsed on the bed again. Li Xiqing came home very early today, arriving at home before 4 p.m. Nanny Rong was pleasantly surprised to see him walk into Su Qianxi's bedroom and quietly clean it. Su Qianxi's door was not locked, so Li Xiqing easily opened the door and walked in. He found that the little woman had fallen asleep again. Her 2 slim legs were clamping the quilt and she was curled up, breathing evenly. Half of her body was exposed. Her thin white nightdress was pulled up to her thighs, faintly revealing her white panties. It looked sweet and seductive. Her fair skin was enough to give people a huge visual impact. Li Xiqing paused, walked up and pulled the quilt for her. Gently lifting her legs, he wanted to pull the quilt over her, but obviously Su Qianxi was not so cooperative. Feeling that someone was going to take the quilt from her, she moaned and hugged him tighter. Thinking that she was going to wake up, Li Xiqing paused and held his breath. The person in the bed did not notice that someone had sneaked into the room. Holding the quilt, she was sleeping soundly, breathing evenly and steadily. Seeing that she had fallen asleep again, Li Xiqing let out a sigh of relief. When he came back to himself, he found that there was a thin layer of cold sweat on his forehead. Damn it. He had entered his wife's room, but why did he feel like he was a thief? Feeling a bit upset, Li Xiqing gave up on the idea of tucking her in. Seeing her sleeping so soundly, he naturally thought of the embarrassing scene when he carried her to the hospital last night. For no reason, he had a ball of anger in his heart. He simply sat on the edge of her bed and reached out to push her. Get up. Su Qianxi was sleeping soundly. Being pushed, she opened her eyes in a daze. The first thing she saw when she opened her eyes was Li Xiqing's cold face. It was as if a cold current had suddenly hit her face and she felt refreshed. But soon she realized her position. One leg was curled on the quilt. From Li Xiqing's point of view, quickly taking her legs back, she was completely awake. She pulled the quilt back and shouted with a red face, "When did you come in? This is my room." Seeing her reaction, Li Xiqing pursed his lips and said calmly, "Everything in the villa belongs to me." Su Qianxi paused. It seemed that it was true, but this is my room. When you came in you should have knocked first. Yes, Li Xiqing responded and looked at her coldly. But you are also mine, aren't you? Hearing that, Su Qianxi felt like she had been struck by lightning. Seeing her dumbfounded look, Li Xiqing was a bit unhappy. At least for now. Looking at his calm face, she almost thought that she had heard wrongly. Hearing it again, her heart skipped a beat, but she quickly regained her composure. What he meant was that she was now his wife. But soon it would no longer be the case. Also, there were less than 9 months left. Wash up and go back to the old house. It was a completely commanding tone. Go back for what? My brother is back. Last time you weren't here. You're going back now. Let him have a look at you. Last time? When was that? When you were in the hospital. Oh. Thinking of the child who died before she had time to find out, Su Qianxi's eyes dimmed. I know. Li Xiqing gave her a deep look, feeling inexplicably bitter. In fact, as long as you want, we can have more. However, she and Louis Han were so in love. Chapter 130. When she came out of the bathroom, it was already 20 minutes later. Because she was going back to the old house to meet the elders, and she was not feeling well, she chose a casual pantsuit, which looked conservative and youthful. Seeing Su Qianxi in this outfit, Nanny Rong was amazed and exclaimed, "A good-looking person can look good in anything. What do you think, sir?" Li Xiqing was sitting on the sofa. Hearing Nanny Rong's voice, he turned his head. When he saw her outfit, he was dazed for a moment. However, he quickly looked away, placed the newspaper in his hand on the coffee table, and walked towards the door with a faint nod. Su Qianxi was not surprised by his attitude. She stuck her tongue out at Nanny Rong and said, "Nanny Rong, if there's nothing else, please go back. We may not be back so soon." "Yes, Mom." Nanny Rong watched the couple go out with a smile and quickly went upstairs to tidy up Su Qianxi's room. As soon as she entered the room, she saw Su Qianxi's laptop on the side of the pillow. She couldn't help sighing and shaking her head. "How can you put the laptop on the pillow? The radiation is too strong." Closing the laptop, she opened the drawer of the bedside table. When she was about to put it in, she saw a translucent file lying quietly in it. Curiously, he craned his neck and vaguely saw 4 words, "Divorce contract." When she got back to the Li family's house, it was almost 6 p.m., time for dinner. Qin Shuhua was sitting next to a tall, muscular man. They were looking at a photo album and laughing happily at each other. "Mom, brother." Li Xiqing greeted them and looked back at Su Qianxi. This was the first time in her life that she had seen her brother-in-law, and she felt a bit nervous. Because he looked similar to Li Xiqing, but his temperament was much softer. In her previous life, she had only met him twice and had dinner with him twice. She was in awe and adoration of this young military uncle. If Li Xiqing was an iceberg, then Li Beixing must be a pine tree on the mountain, giving people a sense of security. "Mom, uncle. Is this your wife?" Li Beixing smiled and looked at Li Xiqing. "Good boy, you have good taste." "Grandpa chose her," Li Xiqing responded and naturally walked over to sit down on the sofa opposite him. In other words, if Grandpa chose her, he could not refuse. Li Beixing smiled, feeling extremely helpless about his brother. He looked at Su Qianxi and waved at her. "Come, sit here." Su Qianxi looked a bit awkward and sat next to Li Xiqing. "I'm sorry that I couldn't go to the hospital to see you last time. Do you blame me?" Su Qianxi shook her head. "It's not a big deal. It doesn't matter." Li Xiqing said. Old Master Li's energetic voice came from behind. With a cold snort, he picked up his walking stick and hit Li Beixing. "For a wild woman who came out of nowhere, you abandoned your sister-in-law. What a good brother you are." Li Beixing grimaced in pain and said with some pain, "Grandpa, your sister-in-law is still here. Can't you give me some face?" Chapter 131. However, after the blow, Captain Li's mood was obviously much better. He sat down next to Su Qianxi and asked kindly, "Qian, did Xiqing bully you?" "No, he was very nice to me." "Very nice?" "Humph." Captain Li glanced at Li Xiqing. Seeing Li Xiqing's calm face, he said with disdain, "You think I don't know what kind of person he is? Would he stay in a hotel for more than a month if he was nice to you?" Qin Shuhua and Li Beixing had not heard about this. Hearing what Captain Li said, they were both startled and looked at Li Xiqing. However, Li Xiqing did not seem to notice that he had become the focus of attention. He took a teacup from the table and slowly sipped. "You stayed in a hotel for more than a month? Did you fight?" Li Beixing and Qin Shuhua asked at the same time. One seemed to have expected it and the other looked a bit complicated. Su Qianxi looked up at Qin Shuhua. She did not know if it was an illusion, but she saw a trace of relief in Qin Shuhua's eyes. Su Qianxi's heart sank. Qin Shuhua was probably still thinking of Tang Menjing as her daughter-in-law. "Brother Xiqing, you're back too?" A soft voice came from the door. Mr. and Mrs. Tang walked in with Tang Menjing and Tang Mengqing, smiling. Seeing Li Xiqing, Tang Menjing was pleasantly surprised. However, when such a surprise was met with a bucket of cold water, even Tang Menjing could not help feeling a bit embarrassed. Seeing this, Tang Zhenghao immediately tried to help. He looked at Li Beixing and said, "Beixing, you are finally back. How long will you be back this time?" When Tang Zhenghao was young, he was also a special forces soldier. However, when he retired, he gave up the army and went into business. He had high hopes for Li Beixing since he was a child. The two families lived close to each other, and for this reason Tang Jinghao treated Li Beixing like his own son. If it were not for the fact that Tang Menjing liked Li Xiqing, Su Qianxi would really doubt that he would marry his daughter to Li Xiqing. 3 days, just a short break. That's not bad. When I was young I only had 1 day and I couldn't even go home. Tang Jinghao was already in his 50s, a few years older than Li Xiqing's father, and he treated the younger generation of the Li family as his own. Looking at Su Qianxi, he said, "Is this the wife of the second son?" "Hello, Uncle Tang." Something flashed in Tang Jinghao's eyes and he smiled. Not bad at all. However, his eyes did not linger on Su Qianxi and looked at Captain Li. "Let's go. It's been a long time since our two families got together." Hearing this suggestion, Li Xiqing frowned, glanced at grandpa and mother and asked, "Where to?" Li Beixing looked confused as well. Qin Shuhua explained, "Jinghao made plans 2 days ago to invite the whole family out for dinner. However, your father went to the lower district for an inspection. Otherwise we would be considered two families." "That's right. Hey, you guys go ahead. This old man will just eat at home. I'm not interested in the feast of you youngsters." However, old Master Li insisted on not going. In the end, the parents of the two families went with the younger generation. It was said that the restaurant was booked by Tang Menjing. When Su Qianxi heard that, she had a bad feeling. Sure enough, as soon as they sat down in the restaurant, Tang Menjing took the menu and asked her to order. Su Qianxi took the menu and looked at it. Oh my, they were all German. Chapter 132. Feeling the gazes of the 3 women of the Tang family, Su Qianxi remained calm and turned the menu. Sitting next to her, Li Xiqing glanced at her and frowned. His cold eyes swept to Tang Menjing like a cold arrow. Being stared at like that, Tang Menjing's heart raced. However, she pretended that she did not notice it and began to introduce the history of the restaurant. "Su Qianxi, is this your first time here? This restaurant originated from the German royal family." After the introduction, Su Qianxi nodded and asked casually, "Menjing, do you know German?" "Of course," Mrs. Tang said, looking at her daughter and husband proudly. "My Tang Menjing has been famous for her talent since she was a child. In a family like ours, we have very high requirements for our children's education. She not only knows German but also English, Chinese, Japanese and French are compulsory courses. She can be a translator if she teaches any of them. Am I right, Jinghao?" There was a hint of warning in Tang Jinghao's eyes. He seemed to be a bit displeased. Mrs. Tang covered her mouth as if she had just realized that she had done something wrong. Tang Menjing immediately said, "Mom, why are you saying that?" Tang Mingqing echoed, "That's right. I heard that Mrs. Li was an orphan when she was a child. How could she know German? Let me order." Then she took Su Qianxi's menu. Qin Shuhua's face darkened as the family echoed each other's words. What did that mean? Mocking her daughter-in-law? Wasn't that a slap in the face of the Li family? When Qin Shuhua was about to explode, she saw Su Qianxi smile and look at Tang Mingqing. "It's okay." Then she handed the menu to Li Xiqing and said in a voice that was just right, "Honey, look at this Himmelandard. Do you want to try it?" Su Qianxi smiled and looked at Tang Mingqing. "Honey?" The 2 words were neither too light nor too heavy. When Li Xiqing heard them, his heart suddenly fluttered. Well, he liked that title. Looking sideways, Li Xiqing moved closer and grabbed her hand that was holding the menu. As he got closer, she clearly noticed the difference in the eyes around her. Looking up, he saw Tang Menjing's gentle face, but deep in her eyes, there was jealousy and hatred. Su Qianxi smiled wider, looked down at the menu and pointed at a dish. "This Thuringer Rostbrat Wurstwurst also looks good. Would you like to order one?" "Yes." His deep and magnetic voice rang in her ears, and she suddenly realized that the distance between her and Li Xiqing at the moment was actually less than 2 centimeters. His warm breath landed on her face. It was soft and ticklish. Su Qianxi immediately blushed and subconsciously wanted to stay away from him. However, when he sensed the gazes around him, he stopped what he was doing. Li Xiqing leaned closer and whispered, "Not bad at German, much better than some translators." She was dazed. Was he helping her? Sure enough, she quietly looked up at the 3 women of the Tang family, and their faces were all gloomy. Qin Shuhua, on the other hand, looked much better. She urged, "Hey, you and your wife are taking too long to order. Don't let the outsiders laugh at you." Chapter 133. Li Xiqing had a rare smile on his face. Looking up, he glanced at his brother coldly and said, "Hurry up and get my sister-in-law done." Then you can show off as well. Li Beixing felt frustrated. If it was so easy, he would not have had to run back and forth. Li Beixing became silent. Turning to look at the Tang family, Tang Jinghao did not look too good, quietly drinking water. However, based on his years of understanding of Li Xiqing, the Tang family would have a big fight when they got back. Okay, that's it. Li Xiqing took the menu from her hand and suddenly thought of something. He turned around and said, "Don't let them add mustard and pepper. You can't eat it." While she was doing that, Su Qianxi blushed and nodded. Under everyone's gaze, she said shyly, "You decide." Okay. Oh my. Li Beixing was a bit angry. He took the menu from Li Xiqing's hand and asked, "Mom, what do you want to eat?" Soon the Tang family finished ordering, and so did the Tang family. Seeing Su Qianxi being so confident, Tang Mingqing felt bad. Why was this woman so close to Li Xiqing? If it were not for her, her sister would be the one marrying Li Xiqing. Unwilling to give up, she glanced at her sister. Seeing that her expression was normal, she threw a warning look at her. Seeing that look, Tang Mingqing calmed down. She knew that her sister would have a solution. However, when the dishes were served, the humiliating plan that Tang Menjing and Tang Mingqing had come up with was completely useless. Because they thought that Su Qianxi must not have seen the world. She definitely did not know how to eat German food. However, Su Qianxi's table manners were impeccable. Seeing Qin Shuhua's admiring look, Mrs. Tang could not help but ask Tang Mingqing, "Mingqing, did you meet your sister-in-law at the gate of your school last time?" Hearing that, Su Qianxi's eyelids twitched. She had a bad feeling. Tang Mingqing heard her mother mention it and immediately said, "What are you talking about?" Tang Minjing pretended to be upset. "She already has brother Xiqing. Don't talk nonsense." "It's true." Tang Mingqing looked unconvinced. "She had such a good time with that brother last time. I still have pictures of them." Her interest was piqued and she nodded repeatedly. "Yes, Mrs. Li is with a fair-skinned brother. They look like a good match." "Pictures?" Hearing the words, Qin Shuhua frowned and asked, "What pictures?" Su Qianxi's heart sank and looked at Su Qianxi. Li Xiqing also glanced at her, his eyes cold and deep. Then he turned his head and said slowly, "It's just a harmless photo shoot. The angle is not bad at all." Tang Minjing did not expect that he would suddenly speak up for Su Qianxi. With his personality, how could he possibly speak up for others? So his relationship with her was so good that he didn't even care about this kind of photo? Su said. And said he Minjing, Tang he li. "Yeah," Su Qianxi responded. "Speaking of which, how is Sister Mingqing? I heard that the first child is very intelligent. You have to be careful in the first 3 months, don't end up like me." Tang Mingqing's expression changed dramatically. Her first reaction was to stand up and yell, "What are you talking about?" Chapter 134. Hearing Tang Jinghao's words, Tang Mingqing was even more scared. Tang Minjing quickly stood up and explained, "What child? Qianxi, are you mistaken?" Her eyes were full of warning. This was not the first time Su Qianxi had met Tang Minjing, and they had been best friends. How could Su Qianxi not understand what Tang Minjing was trying to say? However, Su Qianxi did not seem to understand at all, looking confused. "That's not right. I clearly remember, Su Qianxi." Mrs. Tang could not help it either. "Don't make up stories or I will tear your mouth apart." Su Qianxi immediately shut her mouth as if she was scared. However, no one at the scene was stupid. Seeing them like this, Tang Jinghao knew there must be something wrong. Tang Jinghao looked gloomy. As a retired Special Forces soldier and an experienced businessman, of course, he could tell that they wanted to protect Tang Mingqing. And it was their attitude that proved Su Qianxi was telling the truth. "You got pregnant?" Tang Jinghao suppressed the anger in his heart and looked at his youngest daughter. Tang Mingqing trembled and subconsciously hid behind her sister, not daring to speak. Tang Minjing glared at Su Qianxi and quickly hid her sister behind her back, saying, "Dad, don't. Yes or no?" Tang Jinghao slammed the table and burst into anger. Su Qianxi did not expect that Tang Jinghao, who usually looked gentle, could be so intimidating when he was angry. Tang Mingqing felt wronged and exclaimed with tears in her eyes, "Why don't you believe me? Do you think Su Qianxi is telling the truth? Am I your daughter or is Su Qianxi your daughter?" Mrs. Tang trembled and quickly stood up to protect her daughter. "Don't do this. You are scaring the child." "Yes, Dad. Mingqing was scared by you. How could she talk?" Tang Minjing said, "Can we talk about it at home?" She gestured around. Tang Jinghao suppressed his anger and looked at Su Qianxi. "Tell me what is going on." Su Qianxi felt the gaze from the three women of the Tang family and felt a bit pleased. Didn't they want to hurt her? Then she would strike first and see who was more ruthless. Hearing Tang Jinghao's words, Su Qianxi looked a bit embarrassed and looked at her mother-in-law. Qin Shuhua gently shook her head at her. Su Qianxi immediately understood and said apologetically, "There may be some misunderstanding. I must have mistaken you for someone else." "I'm sorry, Uncle Tang." "Really?" Tang Jinghao didn't believe it. Su Qianxi looked hesitant. After looking around, she nodded reluctantly. Seeing her reaction, Tang Jinghao already had an idea in his heart. However, it was a family matter after all. Don't wash your dirty linen in public. Since she had already said so in front of the Li clan, they would just treat it as a misunderstanding. Tang Jinghao sat in his chair, his heart filled with rage. The atmosphere in the room was dreadfully depressing. After a couple of minutes, she felt the urge to pee and walked out. But when he came out of the bathroom, there was already someone guarding the door. Chapter 135. Su Qianxi reacted quickly and caught Tang Mingqing's hand. Tang Mingqing did not expect Su Qianxi to react so fast. She screamed, "You you are trying to kill me? That's so evil." Su Qianxi's face darkened. Hearing that, Su Qianxi suddenly smiled and pushed Tang Mingqing's hand away. "I was just giving you a taste of your own medicine." "You." Seeing Su Qianxi smile, Tang Mingqing was even angrier. Shameless mistress. I will kill you." Su Qianxi's eyes were cold. Catching Tang Mingqing's hand, she pulled Tang Mingqing's arm and pinned her against the sink. Tang Mingqing screamed and almost burst into tears, but she did not stop talking. "You shameless woman. You cheated on Li Xiqing and tried to frame me in front of my father. What did I do to offend you? Your whole family has offended me." Su Qianxi's eyes turned cold as she said coldly, "I will not offend those who do not offend me. Besides, if you were clean, how could I have anything on you?" Tang Mingqing was pinned down again and cried out in pain. "Ouch, it hurts. Let go of me." "Apologize. Let go of me. It hurts so much. It's going to break." "Apologize and I will let go of you." I am sorry, what did I do wrong?" Tang Mingqing was pinned against the sink, facing the mirror. Seeing how miserable she was, Tang Mingqing felt even more wronged. She burst into tears and roared, "Don't go too far. It seems that you want your hand to be broken." Su Qianxi pinned her again. Feeling the excruciating pain, Tang Mingqing almost thought that her hand was going to break. She screamed, I am sorry. I should not have yelled at you. You asked for it." Su Qianxi pulled her up and let go. Tang Mingqing stretched her wrist. Seeing Su Qianxi going to wash her hands, Tang Mingqing rushed over and pushed Su Qianxi. Su Qianxi was pushed and hit her head on the wall, making a thud. Tang Mingqing was in a good mood and walked out. Feeling dizzy, Su Qianxi felt a throbbing pain on her forehead. Seeing Tang Mingqing was about to walk out, she quickly grabbed her. But his hand was a step too slow, and his fingers could only grab her thigh. Tang Mingqing was wearing a short chiffon skirt, thin and fluffy. Su Qianxi reached under her panties casually. Su Qianxi clearly felt her fingers digging into her flesh. His fingers were clawed down, and his fingernails were already covered in beads of blood. Tang Mingqing felt a burning sensation and did not realize the pain until 2 seconds later. Lifting up her skirt, she saw 5 glistening blood stains. "Su Qianxi, you bitch." Su Qianxi did not expect her grab to be so powerful. Seeing her coming at her again, she dodged to the side. However, her head was even more dizzy and she almost fell to the ground. She had to yell, "Help! Murder!" Tang Mingqing was even angrier. "Stop pretending." Su Qianxi's body flashed and she quickly ran out of the women's room. Tang Mingqing caught up with her, looking like she would not stop until she killed Su Qianxi. The more Su Qianxi ran, the more dizzy she became. At a corner, she bumped into someone. Shocked, Su Qianxi looked up and saw that she had fallen into a deep pool. Seeing the obvious bump on Su Qianxi's forehead, Li Xiqing immediately became gloomy and looked at Tang Mingqing, who had been chasing after him. His cold eyes made Tang Mingqing stop in her tracks, not daring to take another step. Chapter 136. His words, combined with Li Xiqing's cold aura, made Tang Mingqing feel like a demon from hell. Tang Mingqing had always known that Li Xiqing was not someone to be messed with, but she did not expect him to be this scary. He couldn't help but tremble in fear. He stood rooted to the spot, not daring to move. Hearing that, Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat. Who gave you the right to bully my wife? His heart began to beat faster against his will. However, her head became dizzier, and she almost fell over. He reached out and pulled her into his arms. Looking down at the bump on her forehead that was obviously still growing, his cold gaze fell on her again. Obviously, the man did not do anything to her, but Tang Mingqing could not stop shivering. Li Xiqing, Mr. Li, I feel like throwing up. Leaning on him, Su Qianxi felt weak and her eyelids were struggling. Li Xiqing glanced at Tang Mingqing coldly, giving her a dangerous look, which made Tang Mingqing feel even more uneasy. Carrying the woman in front of him, Li Xiqing whispered, "She might have a concussion. I'll take you to the hospital." Feeling drowsy, Su Qianxi did not say anything. She put her arms around his neck and let him carry her out of the dining room. Seeing that Tang Mingqing had not come back for a long time and Su Qianxi was gone, Tang Mingqing felt a bit uneasy. When she came out, she saw Li Xiqing holding Su Qianxi in his arms. Her hands were tightly pinching her arms. However, she immediately looked nervous and asked, "What's wrong, Su Qianxi? Are you not feeling well?" Li Xiqing glanced at her, but his eyes were cold and sharp. "Keep your family in check. If there is a next time, don't blame me for being rude." The cold warning made Tang Mingqing dazed. Holding Su Qianxi in his arms, Li Xiqing quickly walked past her, leaving Tang Mingqing standing there dumbfounded. After he was gone, Tang Mingqing collapsed on the ground as if she had lost all her energy. Her body and head were covered in a cold sweat. Not long after, seeing Tang Mingqing walking toward her, Tang Mingqing immediately pouted. Tang Mingqing was still in shock. Hearing Tang Mingqing's voice, she looked over and asked, "Why are you sitting on the ground?" "I think I'm in trouble, boohoo." She told Su Qianxi everything that had just happened, especially the fact that Su Qianxi might have a concussion, which made her feel uneasy. After figuring out what had happened, Tang Mingqing felt even more threatened by Su Qianxi. Brother Xiqing actually warned her for that woman. Moreover, she wasn't the only one being warned. The entire Tang family was also being warned. According to Li Xiqing's personality in the past, he would not say something so irrational. Could it be that in just 3 short months he had already fallen for her? But why? She had been by his side for more than 10 years. Why didn't he have any feelings for her? Impossible, that's impossible. No, I have to get them divorced as soon as possible. The plan to destroy Su Qianxi had to be brought forward. Chapter 137. After Su Qianxi was sent to the hospital, she was diagnosed with a slight concussion. Fortunately, it was not serious. She could go home after a short rest. For the next 2 or 3 days, Li Xiqing asked for leave for Su Qianxi and did not go to school. However, this matter soon reached the ears of the Li family in Tang Jinghao. On the 3rd day of her rest at home, a phone call summoned her back to the old mansion. Not long after she arrived, Tang Jinghao took his daughter to the Li family's house. "Apologize to your sister-in-law," Tang Jinghao said sternly. Tang Mingqing looked aggrieved. Her eyes had become like a goldfish's. Under everyone's gaze, her face was shockingly red. She retorted, "It's not my fault." She did not watch where she was going and fell. Su Qianxi immediately knew what they were up to. Sneering inwardly, Su Qianxi looked at Tang Mingqing as if she was an idiot and said, "If I could get a concussion while going to the bathroom, then my weight must be scary." "Su Qianxi, don't accuse me." Tang Mingqing gritted her teeth. "Tang Mingqing." Tang Jinghao was disappointed. "You still won't admit it. Do you think I don't know your personality? It's fine that you embarrassed yourself at home, but your sister-in-law is not in good health, and you still treat her like this. I have raised you for nothing." Mrs. Tang immediately pulled Tang Mingqing to the back and looked at her husband. "Do you know how badly your daughter has been bullied by her? You have no idea how badly she has hurt her daughter. Why do you care about an outsider? Then tell me, how did she bully your daughter? All I know is that she pushed Tang Mingqing and got a concussion. What about your daughter? She has done nothing but ruin the family's reputation. I, Tang Jinghao, have lost all my face because of you." Tang Jinghao's voice was very loud. Obviously, he already knew that Tang Mingqing had an abortion. Startled by the roar, Su Qianxi took a step back. However, when she stepped back, she bumped into a meat wall. She looked back and saw it was Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing naturally stood next to her, watching the farce in front of him coldly. Captain Li heard the noise and came out. Leaning on his cane, he asked coldly, "What happened?" "Uncle Li?" Tang Jinghao immediately calmed down and told him the purpose of the meeting. Tang Mingqing looked reluctant. She bullied me first. You have no idea how badly she scratched me. It still hurts. Where did she scratch you? Why don't you show me? Qin Shuhua's voice came from inside. Speak with evidence. If you have solid evidence, this matter will end here. If not, you must apologize to Su Qianxi today. Qin's attitude was very tough, and Su Qianxi almost applauded Li Xiqing's words. Su Qianxi's eyes became darker. According to Qianxi, Qianxi's Su's. He believed Tang Mingqing when she said that he was kidnapped by Su Qianxi. Su's Su, but why did not she Su and Li Su Li's Qianxi and said, Xiqing Li Su he s Li Su and Chen Li Xiqing. Of all places, Su Qianxi chose that spot. Why don't you lift it up and see? Su Qianxi crossed her arms and looked fearless. Tang Mingqing was dazed and hesitated. How can I look at that spot? There were so many men there, and even Tang Jinghao could not look at his daughter's private part. Chapter 138. Tang Mingqing felt so wrong that she almost burst into tears. Glaring at Su Qianxi, she roared, You must have done it on purpose. You grabbed me on purpose so that there would be no witnesses, right? You evil woman. Su Qianxi felt a bit wronged. How did it become me doing it on purpose? Can my hand grow so long that I can reach inside to grab you? In all honesty, she really did not do it on purpose. However, it was a good grab. Qin Shuhua agreed with Su Qianxi's words. Although Qin Shuhua was not very satisfied with this daughter-in-law of hers, she was still a member of the Li family. Although the Tang family and the Li family were old friends, it was also a fact that the Tang family had bullied the Li family. Hearing Tang Mingqing's words, Qin Shuhua snorted. Who is right and who is wrong is still debatable. But is this how the daughters of the Tang family are raised? Tang Jinghao felt his face was burning. He felt that the reputation of the Tang family, which had been built for generations, had been ruined by his youngest daughter. Tang Jinghao's temper flared up. He pressed Tang Mingqing down and roared, Apologize. Tang Mingqing looked stubborn. With tears in her eyes, she yelled, I did not do anything wrong. She deserved it. If it were not for her, Li Xiqing would be my sister now. She is a mistress, a bitch. She finally heard it. In her previous lifetime, Su Qianxi had heard these words the most. She was a lowly mistress. If it were not for her, it would be Tang Menjing who married Li Xiqing. Hearing that, Su Qianxi subconsciously looked at Captain Li Sun. Captain Li met Su Qianxi's gaze and sneered as if to comfort her. Nephew Tang, I don't think you have the right to tell my grandson's marriage, do you? Hearing that, Tang Jinghao felt even more humiliated. Needless to say, it must have been the older two who had indoctrinated her. Tang Jinghao was so angry that he reached out and slapped her hard in the face, shouting, Who told you all this? Being slapped, Tang Mingqing cried even louder. I am. Why should Su Qianxi, an illegitimate daughter and an orphan, marry Li Xiqing? However, before he could finish, Tang Menjing covered his mouth tightly. Tang Menjing looked at her father pleadingly. Dad, don't hit her. Mengqing is still young. Then he looked at his sister and said, Mengqing, apologize to Qianxi. After that, let's go home. Be good. Tang Mengqing cried even harder, tears rolling down her cheeks. However, Su Qianxi gave him a cold look, turned around and walked back into the room. This was her greatest weakness. In her previous life, it was these people who tried their best to poke at this point, digging out and magnifying the inferiority in her heart. Everyone was reminding her that she was lowly, uncultured, and uncultured. Later on, no matter how much she learned or how hard she tried, she couldn't change this fact. In this lifetime she had changed everything. However, when she heard these words again, Su Qianxi still could not ignore it. He noticed her emotional change. The moment she turned around, he grabbed her wrist and said, I don't care. His low voice was like rich coffee, making Su Qianxi stop and stiffen. Chapter 139. His voice came from behind her once again. It was as low as a feather, but it shook her entire world. She felt tears welling up in her eyes. Lowering her head, her tears fell on the back of her hand. What he said echoed in her mind. He did not care. He did not care. Did he really not care? In her previous lifetime he cared so much. Su Qianxi's shoulders trembled. Anyone could tell what she was feeling. Standing behind her, Li Xiqing's cold eyes softened a bit. Pulling her around, he saw her hopelessly aggrieved little face at first glance. His eyes darkened, he pressed Su Qianxi's head against his chest and looked at Tang Mingqing, who already knew that she was in trouble again. I do not want to see you in my house anymore. His voice was cold and deep, and it faintly carried a hint of warning that could not be disobeyed. Tang Mingqing's face paled. Facing his threatening gaze, she shivered and looked at her sister for help. Tang Mingqing looked terrible. She did not expect that things would turn out like this. In this way she was even further away from the Li family. Go back. Old Master Li also ordered them to leave. Our family is so uneducated and uncultured that we can't welcome distinguished guests like you. Of all the people Tang Jinghao respected the most, Old Master Li Sun was number one. Hearing that, even Tang Jinghao was a bit anxious and said, Uncle Li, go. Captain Li did not want to look at him and waved his hand. Soon the Tang family left. Captain Li waved his hand and said, Siqing, take your wife back. I should not have asked her to apologize. She is so ungrateful. Qin Shuhua looked regretful and said to Su Qianxi, don't mind what that girl said. You are so much better than Tang Mingqing. Su Qianxi nodded, but there was another knot in her heart. She was so much better than Tang Mingqing. Then what about Tang Mingqing? Qin Shuhua was still holding back when she said that. In fact, she still hoped that Tang Mingqing would be her daughter-in-law. Slightly disappointed, she wiped her face and whispered, Thank you, Mom. Li Siqing saw her insincerity and pulled her. Let's go. I'll take you to dinner. He asked her to choose a restaurant. She told him the name of a restaurant and asked him to drive her there. When he arrived, he realized it was a hot pot restaurant. I used to come here when I was in a bad mood. Of course, this was referring to his previous life. However, Li Siqing did not know that. Thinking that she was talking about the time before she married him, he nodded. Sheng Shiming often brought her to this hot pot restaurant. He once said that life was like a hot pot. At the beginning, the soup was clear and fragrant. However, most people would add a lot of things into the pot, stirring up the soup into a mess. However, he enjoyed the process of muddying the soup like a dictator. Although it was a bit strange, she liked what he said. He did not like coming to this kind of occasion and frowned. However, seeing that she was in a better mood, he suppressed the urge to leave and followed her in. Chapter 140. Although it was a hot pot restaurant, it was a quiet and comfortable place. Li Siqing looked around and reluctantly accepted the decision to eat here. However, when Su Qianxi was about to get a private room, she was politely told that there were no more rooms available. Then let's have the lobby. However, she immediately swallowed her words and looked at Li Siqing. How could someone like Li Siqing be willing to sit in the lobby? Seeming to feel her hesitation, Li Siqing looked over and arched an eyebrow. Do you really want to eat? Su Qianxi hesitated and nodded. It had been a long time since she had tasted the food here. Now that she was here, she really did not want to leave. Seeing the disdain in Li Siqing's eyes, Su Qianxi quickly said, It's okay if you don't want to eat. Let's go to another place. Here? Li Siqing interrupted her. Help us find a quiet place to sit. Su Qianxi was pleasantly surprised and blinked. Okay. The waiter smiled and took them to a seat next to the bed. It was in the corner but had a good view. Mr. Li, this is the best seat in the lobby. You can press the call button if you need anything. We will serve you wholeheartedly. Okay. As he expected. Everywhere Li Siqing went, people would know him. Soon, she finished ordering and placing the order. She was obviously in a much better mood. When did you learn German? Su Qianxi looked up and was dazed for a second. She quickly replied, Oh, I learned it during the summer vacation. Didn't you learn judo during the summer vacation? Something had happened. Su Qianxi looked uncomfortable and said that it was during the summer vacation last semester. Li Siqing arched an eyebrow. It takes a long time to learn a language. Without practical communication, it is hard to be fluent. Are you sure you still remember what you learned last summer? Moreover, if he remembered correctly, didn't she stay with the Su family last summer? I have a good memory. Oh. Li Siqing nodded. What about the piano? As far as he knew, no one in the Su family knew how to play the piano, let alone owned one. In addition, judging from her piano skills, she had at least reached the 9th level. This level was not something that could be achieved in 1 or 2 summers. Su Qianxi's heart raced. She took a sip of lemonade and looked away. I am talented and self-taught. Li Siqing pursed his lips and narrowed his eyes, thinking. Under such intense gaze, she couldn't stand it anymore. Putting down the glass, she said, I'm going to the bathroom. As he spoke, he stood up and walked out. She walked to the bathroom with ease, feeling perturbed. Oh no, how was she going to explain? Could it be that he had died once and now he was back? He would treat her like a lunatic. However, she had never thought of an explanation for this kind of problem. It was really a little strange that she suddenly understood it. After going to the bathroom, he pondered for a long time before slowly walking out. This restaurant was very quiet and there were very few people coming and going. On the way back to his seat, a petite and cute girl walked towards him. When she saw Su Qianxi, she quickly stopped her and said in broken Chinese, "You? Okay, do you speak Korean?" Su Qianxi arched an eyebrow and asked in Korean, "What's up?" The girl let out a sigh of relief and quickly explained her situation. It turned out that she had come here to eat hot pot and felt uncomfortable halfway through. She went to the bathroom and found that she was on her period. However, she did not bring the necessities of a woman. When she saw Su Qianxi, she immediately asked for help. Su Qianxi happened to have a few pills with her. After giving her 2, the girl thanked her profusely and went into the bathroom. Su Qianxi smiled and turned around again. At the end of the hallway, she saw a familiar tall figure. Chapter 141. However, seeing him standing behind her, her heart skipped a beat. When did he stand behind her? Then the fact that she could speak Korean. Looking at his face, she couldn't help feeling guilty. He looked at her silently for 2 seconds before looking away and walking into the men's room. She felt relieved. It turned out that he was just here to use the restroom. Why was he acting like a thief? Su Qianxi looked upset, but she quickly returned to her seat. On the way, she did not even dare to look back. However, she did not know that the man behind her had walked out again. Looking at her back, he seemed to be deep in thought. Picking up his phone, he quickly dialed a number. Was Qingyu. However, when the call was about to go through, he immediately cancelled it. Thinking about it, he found another number in his contact list and dialed it. The call was quickly connected. There was the sound of typing and a clear male voice sounded. "Hey, isn't this Li Xiqing? Why did you come to me today? Help me investigate someone. F***CK, I'm an IT guy, not a criminal investigator. You should go to a detective agency. Investigate my wife." The other party was silent. After a few seconds he asked, "Why?" "Weird." Well, she had long been used to second young Master Li's concise words. "Well, only I can do such a secretive thing. I'm currently developing a holographic projection technology, but I'm still short of funds." You. Zhang Heng was speechless. "How much?" 10 million. Blackmail? The other party chuckled. "I'm in trouble." It was rare for Li Xiqing to ask him for a favor, so how could he not blackmail him? "Yes, give me the results in 2 hours. The more detailed, the better." Hey, wait. Do you want to know about my feelings, my background, or something else? Did she put on a hat for you? How dare she? Li Xiqing's eyes darkened. "I want to know everything about her, no matter how big or small." "Got it? It's still the same account, don't forget I love you au moi." Li Xiqing immediately felt speechless and hung up the phone. He put away his phone and walked back to his seat. At the same time, the sound of flushing came from the bathroom. Sheng Shiming pretended not to care and went to wash his hands. However, when he saw Li Xiqing's back, his heart sank. Isn't this guy Miss Su's husband? He wanted to investigate Su Qianxi? He had thought that their relationship was good, but now it seemed that their relationship was damned good. After washing her hands in silence, she followed him. Her eyes seemed to unintentionally look in the direction of Li Xiqing and immediately saw Su Qianxi. "Ximing, what are you looking at?" "The food is ready," Song Yifan called. "Yes." Sheng Shiming sat down, looked at Song Yifan and said, "Do you remember Rong Xian?" Song Yifan's hand paused in the middle of cooking the hot pot. He looked over with a cold look. Rong Xian. This name had stunned them for a long time, but in the end, it also became a taboo name for each other. Chapter 142. Song Yifan looked down and slowly processed the ingredients. He said calmly, "You must be mistaken. Xian died a long time ago. No matter how similar they look, it can't be her." Sheng Shiming also became silent. After a while he continued, "They really look alike. At first glance I thought I saw Xian. If she had a child back then she would probably..." Song Yifan's hand slightly trembled. His eyes, which were usually calm and gentle, had a trace of emotion. "Where is she?" Xing Shiming pointed to a corner by the window. From their point of view, it was completely blocked by the high sofa. Song Yifan put down his chopsticks, stood up and looked over. However, before he saw it, there was another person in front of him. It was the owner of the hot pot restaurant. He smiled politely and said, "Mr. Song, what do you think?" Song Yifan frowned, looked over again and saw a soft and beautiful face. "Okay, but I want to add one more condition." Seeing Li Xiqing coming back, Su Qinxi felt a bit nervous. Silently cooking the ingredients, she pretended that she did not know he was back. Li Xiqing did not speak either. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. The sound of microphones came from all directions, a bit sharp and harsh. "Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you here." Many people only listened for a while before they lowered their heads and continued eating. "Today Mr. Song Yifan has also come to our restaurant. Do you want to hear him play?" Song Yifan. Hearing the name, many people looked up and immediately responded, "Yes." "Is it really Song Yifan?" "No way. Is it just a gimmick of the hot pot restaurant?" Su Qinxi looked over and could see a piano in the center of the hall. In front of the piano there was a person standing. It was him who had just said the words. "Let Mr. Song see how enthusiastic you are. Let's cheer together. Song Yifan, Song Yifan, Song Yifan." All the people in the restaurant began to shout. Everyone was looking around, trying to find Song Yifan. Su Qinxi was no exception. After a while, she saw a man in his 30s or 40s standing up in a corner. He was tall, thin but healthy. He walked leisurely to the piano, dressed in casual clothes. He looked soft and casual, but his elegant aristocratic aura was still strong. When Su Qinxi saw his face, she immediately held her breath, and her heart raced with excitement. This person's Song Yifan? Song Yifan, one of the best pianists in the world and the only Chinese in the International Piano Association? How could she meet Song Yifan in such a place? Heavens, she wasn't dreaming, was she? The idol he worshipped the most in both his previous and current life, as well as the only person he worshipped, was actually here. It was too amazing. Widening his eyes in disbelief, he wanted to take a closer look, but his eyes inadvertently caught sight of a familiar figure standing up as well. Uncle Sheng? Uncle Sheng was having hot pot with Song Yifan? Yes, Uncle Sheng and Song Yifan seemed to be good friends. Chapter 143. It was said that when they were young they even had a falling out over a woman. Later, Song Yifan went to France and became an international pianist, while Li Xiqing became one of the top lawyers in Kingstown. Kingstown was the memory of the three of them. In her previous life she had never met Song Yifan, nor had she heard anything about Song Yifan from Uncle Sheng's mouth other than the past. How come, could it be that this was also the trajectory that he had changed? No, that was not right. He had nothing to do with her, right? While Su Qinxi was dazed, Song Yifan had walked onto the stage and stood next to the host. Putting one hand on the left side of his heart, he bowed and said, "Hello, everyone. I am Song Yifan." It really is Song Yifan. I can't believe I'm eating at the same hot pot restaurant with Song Yifan. So happy. This restaurant is so rich. They can even invite Song Yifan. Are you stupid? Obviously Mr. Song is just here for dinner. Who would be dressed like this? But he is so handsome. Hearing the screams of the girls around her, Su Qinxi's heart was pounding, and her eyes were shining. "Wipe your saliva," Li Xiqing said coldly, which dazed Su Qinxi. She subconsciously touched her chin. But, blushing, Su Qinxi gave him a stare and accidentally saw the teasing look in his eyes. Is he really that good-looking? He was just an old man, not even 1/10 as good-looking as him. Did he have to look like that? Blushing, Su Qinxi took a sip of water. Of course he is good-looking. He frowned slightly. He seemed to have married an infatuated woman. Could it be that a man who was slightly better-looking would be able to abduct her and take her away? It is our honor to welcome Mr. Song to our restaurant. All meals are 20% off today. In addition, we would like to invite a lucky customer to play a song with our international pianist. I wonder who will have the honor? Me, my piano skills have already passed level 10. Pick me. Me, it must be me. Although I have not passed level 10, I have heard all of Mr. Song's songs. I can play. Pick me. Su Qinxi blinked and felt a bit regretful. She didn't expect that there would be so many experts here. Sitting in such a corner, she was afraid that there was no hope for her. Looking back with regret, she picked up a piece of meat, dipped it in the sauce and put it in her mouth. Don't worry, everyone has a chance. Let's pick a lucky customer. If the person we pick doesn't know how to play the piano, then the opportunity will be transferred. As he spoke, a spotlight at the top began to spin rapidly. Song Yifun's fans all held their breath, and some even trembled with excitement. She swallowed the food in her mouth and took a sip of the lemonade. However, a strong light shone over, causing her eyes to sting slightly, and she squinted her eyes. Okay, miss. The spotlight fell on Su Qianxi, and she instantly became the focus of everyone. Why? She was chosen even though she was sitting in such a corner. Her life is too good. If I had known earlier, I would have sat there. Boo-hoo, I was born at the wrong time, I was born at the wrong time. Chapter 144. Everyone's eyes were focused on her. Su Qianxi clearly felt the jealousy around her. It's you. Yes, it's you. You can't play the piano, right? No way, right? Yes. Let's transfer the opportunity. The expectant voices around made Su Qianxi blink her eyes, and then she was overwhelmed with ecstasy. It's really me? Su Qianxi looked at Li Xiqing overjoyed. Li Xiqing frowned slightly, looked up, and glanced at the spotlight that had been directed at her. His meaning was self-evident. Su Qianxi exclaimed happily, "It's really me." The host smiled and said, "Yes, lucky girl. Do you know how to play the piano?" "I do." Of course she did. When she was in the most difficult and awkward situation, it was Song Yifun's music that brought her out of the darkness. In Song Yifun's style, there was a natural sense of sadness. Pessimistic and low, but the more you listened to it, the more magical it was. There was a saying that was called survival in a desperate situation. Song Yifun's music had this feeling the most. It was magical and beautiful. It was also because of Song Yifun that Su Qianxi decided to learn the piano. Now she was lucky enough to meet this idol that she had always thought could only be seen from afar. She did not expect that she would have the opportunity to play with him. Su Qianxi's heart almost jumped out of her chest, filled with nervousness and excitement. Seeing Su Qianxi like this, the host felt a bit strange. This girl did not seem to be any different from other fans, and it looked like she was seeing Song Yifun for the first time. Why did Song Yifun treat her so differently? Although curious, the host still had to maintain his professionalism. He waved at Su Qianxi and said, "Can you come to the front?" "Yes." Almost jumping up and down, Su Qianxi quickly got up from her seat and walked toward the stage where Song Yifun was. At this moment, Su Qianxi felt like she was surrounded by dozens of pairs of eyes, feeling very nervous. But soon she relaxed again. Phew. It was no big deal. She could just pretend that she was at a party. Thinking about it this way, Su Qianxi's condition was undoubtedly much better. Stepping forward, she clearly noticed that Song Yifun was looking at her. His gaze was deep and indescribable. It was like looking at an acquaintance. But amidst the familiarity, there was also a complicated unfamiliarity. The first time Uncle Xing saw her, he had the same look in his eyes. However, in Song Yifun's eyes, she clearly sensed the sadness and indescribable bitterness in his eyes. What does that mean? Seeing that, Su Qianxi subconsciously looked in the direction of Xing Shiming. Xing Shiming was a little surprised that she had found him. He smiled at her and made a gesture to cheer her on. "Lucky lady, what's your name?" "My surname is Su." "Okay, Miss Su. Did you know Mr. Song before this?" "Of course," she blurted out.